Supervisors meeting. Will you please join me in a salute to our flag? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Will the clerk please read the public participation procedures for this meeting?
In order to protect public health and safety of our Tuolumne County citizens, this Board of Supervisors meeting will be physically closed to the public. During the board meeting, citizens who wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line at area code 209-533-6581 to queue for verbal public comment. Public comment will be opened and closed individually for each agenda item listed below. If you wish to comment on a specific item, please call in when the board clerk has read the item. The chair will ask if there are any comments from the public at that time, and your call will be taken in the order it is received. The public comment time limit on each item is set for 3 minutes per speaker. The time limit does not apply to staff. Public access video and audio live streaming can be utilized at the Tuolumne County website. The public will not have access for public comments. This is available for audio and visual only, or access Tuolumne County. Public access audio only Zoom meeting, the public will not have access for public comment. This is available for listening only. Via computer or call in at 669-900-9192 with webinar ID 987-3738-5155. Important public notice. Under the Governor's Executive Order N-2520, this meeting will allow members of the Board of Supervisors to participate by teleconference and under Order N-2920 accessibility requirements. If you need swift special attentions during the board meeting, please call 209-533-6581.
Thank you. And at this time, Ms. Carrillo, can you please, for the public's benefit, because masking is very important, share your thoughts on the board masking?
Right. So when I looked at the guidance that the governor signed regarding the facial covering, there is an exception about a face covering does not need to be worn in the office or situations when social distancing can be met and when staff is not working with the public. So because these board meetings are not open to the public and we're able to social distance, it's not mandated, but certainly optional if people feel the need to do that.
Thank you. And hoping that everyone will wear their mask when they're out in the hallways and other places where they can be in contact with the public. All right. At this time, we'll take oral communication. Public may speak on any item not on the printed agenda. No action may be taken by the board, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Speakers turned down on your computer? Are the speakers turned down on your computer? Okay, just a moment, please. You're on the board.
You're out hallway and other. Go ahead.
Okay, it's time. I have a comment insofar as I think that some of the people that are involved with the county are not taking this seriously even now. They made comments about keeping 6 feet apart in the meeting. They're not 6 feet apart. Beyond that, I had an experience, for example, with the deputy on Saturday where because he was outside, he didn't think he needed to wear a mask. And the fact is that if we're going to get control of this, it's got to happen sooner rather than later. And it's gotten particularly goofy because when you try and make an appointment to get a COVID test, they're at least about 12 days out, and then it's another 7 days before you get your results. So that's close to 3 weeks before you find out you've got it or not, and that's how much the lag time is. So we got some real problems in this county, and I think the issue of face masks has gotten politicized to the point that people are just not getting it. I'm in the business. We just put in a lab in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We drove 2,500 miles out to do that, and did it, and we're consistently getting more real-time PCR instruments out, this kind of thing, and I offered to give one to the county, but it turns out nobody knows how to use one here. And on top of that, all they're doing at the hospital and at the Calaveras location is taking those swabs and sending them to either Quest or UCSF. And so, again, that lag time is really, really big, and I don't think that the Board of Supervisors themselves are really taking this seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, you're on with the board.
Okay, thank you. This is Jeff Musi with Hazy Bulldog Farms. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I was just going to give a quick update on the cannabis industry in town here. I was happy to announce that we've hired a couple new people at the Hazy Bulldog. I know that was originally one of the concerns of the council members, is that some of the cannabis companies have been laying people off. Here in this county, it's the exact opposite. We are 40% above our original figures for our employment figures given to the city of Sonora for our proposals. We are also up 145% above our originally projected sales tax totals. So I know that was also an original concern, that possibly the cost of doing business will outweigh the impact, or may not impact the community, outweigh the impact it has on the community. And it seems like the Hazy Bulldog is doing the exact opposite. We are far outweighing any negative costs. In fact, we are over our projected, which they calculated to make a profit in the city. We're over that by 45%. During these times, that is exceptional. We're looking to hire another person over the next month, and just to once again tell you guys how that hiring process has gone over the last two hires. We had over 250 applications for the last two hires. This new position we are not even opening a process for because it has been such a high interest, just to show everybody how eager people are to work in the cannabis industry. Also, just want to say that we would love to also contribute to the county. We would love to vertically integrate in the county here and be able to progress our business and county with their shortfalls of some of the revenues that they've had. Just to give some projections, the Hazy Bulldog in 2 years, if allowed to vertically integrate in the county, we project we'd be worth a $10 million valuation, and we could create 50 jobs for the community. And 10 years, we would be a $200 million valuation and 200 jobs created in this county. And by all means, we've been going above and beyond all of our projections. So just to give you guys an idea of what is in store, of what the Hazy Bulldog can bring the county, is a lot of good business, a lot of projected jobs, and a lot of hope, which this county seems like it does need. Thank you guys very much for your time, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Oral communication? All right. At this time, are there any staff reports? Seeing none, will the clerk please read our 9 a.m. appointment?
Presentation and planning status update on the novel coronavirus COVID-19.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Carrillo, Ms. Riggs. My name is Rebecca Espino, Health and Human Services Agency Director. During our last COVID update, we were planning for recovery. As more and more businesses were able to open, there was an excitement in the community that maybe we would go relatively unscathed. But it is with heavy heart that we come before your board to share the concerning trend of the rapidly growing positive COVID cases in our beautiful county. Today's presentation is a little longer, than usual. This will give Dr. Ortiz an opportunity to share a lot of information, including the rigorous process public health follows when someone tests positive for COVID. And with that being said, Dr. Ortiz.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to try to do this with my mask on and try to pronounce things clearly and talk much slower than I normally want to. Let's start off comparing our numbers as of yesterday morning compared to the last time we reported, which was June 15th, and it is not getting projected. Hang on a second. Nope. Who knows how to get this on the thing? Okay. So, let me go back one. There we go. All right. So June 15th compared to July 6th. The last time we presented, we had 9 positive cases. And as of yesterday, we have 53 positive cases. 34 of those are active. And 3 are non-residents, which we are in the process of transferring to their county of residence. As you can see across the state and the country, there have obviously been increases in cases and deaths. So this slide shows a little bit more information numerically from our neighbors. As we've discussed many times since the 15th, there have been really very high numbers of cases and deaths in the Central Valley area. Most of those counties in the Central Valley neighboring us are now on the county monitoring list. You can see that Stanislaus and San Joaquin have multiple thousands of cases currently. So as you can see, compared from the 15th, across the state, most of the counties are darker. And Tulare and Imperial, in particular, are very heavily impacted. As of yesterday, all of our Central Valley neighboring counties are on the county data monitoring list. And our neighbors in the foothill counties are also seeing significant increases in cases. So we just wanted to reiterate that we continue to work with our regional partners, which includes the Yosemite Gateway Area Coordination Team, the San Joaquin Valley Public Health Consortium, Region 4 MOAC and Mutual Aid Advisory Committee, as well as working on the local level to advocate for the county's needs to the state and to the region. We want to acknowledge, in particular, many of our local partners who have stepped in over the past couple of weeks, which includes the superintendent of schools, the sheriff's office, probation, many of our other departments in the Health and Human Services Agency, and in particular, the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. Since our last report, there has been a new local health officer order which permitted personal care services and just updated further details of guidance as they get updated. They are continually updated, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And as of our last report, the state also issued, as you know, a requirement for all Californians to wear face coverings while in public or in high-risk settings. So this graph is a little bit flawed and a little bit rough, but it was the most up-to-date graph that I've had available at the time that we put this presentation together. It is now out of date because we have way more cases than this. Things are changing rapidly, but this is just to show the exponential growth in cases that we are currently dealing with. So we've had a dramatic increase in the number of cases of most concern. That includes cases in our skilled nursing facilities, our state prison, the county jail, and the hospital. We want to continue to emphasize the importance of the risk that staff can present to residents of congregate living facilities, and the importance of keeping those staff members healthy and not presenting further risk to those residents who have often no other place to go and are in very high density settings. Also of great concern with the number of new cases is the number of gatherings which are not permitted that have been happening, and this includes a lot of parties and some group camping, which is specifically not allowed in all of the orders. We continue to message on the importance of people staying in their household bubbles as much as possible to lower the number of contacts they have to prevent the further spread of the disease. There's been a lot of misinformation, so I want to take this opportunity while we're speaking to the board in public to present some accurate information. We have had people in all stages of disease when they are identified. And over the course of the disease, which is typically many days to a couple weeks, the severity of their symptoms can change. So even if somebody is asymptomatic at the time that they are known to public health, that does not mean they stay that way. And whether or not they're hospitalized doesn't necessarily mean they stay that way. What is true is we have had many symptomatic people, and we have had many people hospitalized for their symptoms. A lot of people have been lucky enough to be discharged before that 24 hours of an admission with supportive care outside of the hospital system. We have had 2 of our residents admitted for more than 24 hours for their COVID symptoms. We have had some non-county residents also be admitted for COVID symptoms and hospitalized at Adventist Health Sonora, but that's not counted in our numbers. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to do some myth busting and to clarify to people that people are getting very sick from this disease. We have made some statements to the public and to all of you that we are no longer able to stay in the containment phase. Containment requires quickly identifying all cases, investigating and tracing all contacts, and putting them in isolation and quarantine with the support that they may need to stay in isolation and quarantine. It requires the cooperation and full disclosure on behalf of cases, contacts, and workplaces, which allows us to prevent the further spread. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that at this time for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into throughout this presentation. When we're unable to identify all of the cases and contacts, people need to understand that public health cannot ensure that we are containing disease, and that they must act as if everyone they come in contact with has COVID-19. Public health has to use what resources we have to focus on some higher risk situations such as jails and skilled nursing, and we're unable to provide full wraparound investigation and services to some of the still risky but less devastating in terms of numbers and spread. So we have to spend our resources where it is extremely risky. It's important that the public take actions to protect themselves and others by following public health guidance. So lots of changes in testing availability since we last spoke. Testing is available through local providers, which includes Adventist Health Sonora and the OptumServe State site in Angels Camp. Adventist Health Sonora has a machine in their lab that can do a full PCR test. However, like every other lab in the country, there is a shortage of the chemical reagents that are needed to run that test. And we have to save that capability for medically urgent situations. All other tests are being sent out to large, high-capacity labs. So that has led to a longer turnaround time in test results for most people. Testing continues to be available at the Calaveras County Fairgrounds. The hours have changed since we last spoke. Starting on the 7th, which is today, the hours are now 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday. Appointments are strongly encouraged. There is some very limited walk-in availability, but it's not guaranteed, so people should try to make appointments as much as possible. there has been some misinformation about the accuracy of the testing which is available in this county. So the Adventist Health Sonora machine that they have in-house is a BD Max PCR test, which is highly accurate and just as accurate as any other PCR test that is run across the country, including the higher capacity labs such as Quest, LabCorp, and AREP. All of these are full PCR tests, are highly accurate, and we do run confirmatory lab tests to increase that accuracy even further. None of these tests are rapid. None of these tests are what was being produced by Abbott, which got some media coverage as being inaccurate. All of the tests that are done in Tuolumne County are full PCR tests that are highly accurate. PCR tests, as we've gone over before, are tests which detect the presence of viral genetic material at the time of the test. And we have consulted with state and national partners on the accuracy of these tests, and there have been no findings of high false positive or high false negative rates. So disease reporting is something we do all the time for all reportable diseases. And there's always an element of public health department on a local level going through and making sure that those reports are accurate before they move up to the next level. So our job in public health has always been to do this. We continue to do this for COVID-19. We correct errors in spelling or incomplete information. We remove duplicates so that there are no duplicates being reported. And we assign cases to the county of residence. The local data is always more up to date than the state data because we have a chance to look at it and correct it and make sure that all of the information is there before we move it up to the state. So in Tuolumne County, at least 5,900 tests have been conducted. We know that number is an underrepresentation of the number of tests that are done on Tuolumne County residents. And what the state has been looking at on the county data monitoring is the number of tests run on average per day per 100,000 residents. And yesterday, at the time that we made this slide, that number was 195. Which is above the threshold level and represents a pretty normal amount of testing that can pretty accurately detect the amount of disease that is in the community.
So, Dr. Ortiz, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Again, just for public clarification, because
Sure.
I think I heard you already give the answer, but I am hearing this out in the public that we don't have testing capacity.
So we have the ability to do tests, but they have to be sent out to the lab. We have quite good ability to do tests, and a lot of tests are being done. It's just that they are not getting run in the county on the machine here, which...
And there is a time lag. Thank
Yes.
you.
I have another clarification. The number, for instance, the 5,972, and I know those are the results that are back, not necessarily the tests that have been done. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's say, because for valid reasons, I've got to leave the county. And I did that earlier, and I went and got tested per your suggestion. If I get tested second time or third time or whatever, do I have 3 in that 5,970?
So that 5,972 is people tested right now. And there are ways that we can also look at the number of tests done. And we are hoping to be able to more clearly represent both of those numbers in the GIS portal, which we'll get to later, because that does require a lot of work in terms of the public health department spending time cleaning up that data and making sure that the duplicates are, you and me getting tested more than once at very different time periods versus the same confirmatory test coming back at the same date.
So that 5,972 is 5,972
people,
unique individuals in the county.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, as we were just saying, there are recommendations for people to get tested, people who have contact outside of their household or have traveled outside of the county, people who have jobs with public interaction, essential critical infrastructure jobs. We do recommend that people get tested regularly. So isolation and quarantine are two different words and mean two different things. And in the public health world, we really try to use the correct word. It has a specific meaning in public health, even though for most lay people, they mean roughly the same thing. But then that leads to some confusion because they are different things. Isolation is for positive cases or presumed positive cases. For COVID-19, it lasts a minimum of 10 days from the onset of symptoms and must include 3 days with no fever and improving symptoms. If people are asymptomatic for the full duration of that time, it is 10 days from the date that they were tested. Quarantine is for exposed people who are asymptomatic. For COVID-19, quarantine is 14 days from the last exposure to the positive case. For ongoing exposures, which typically happens for parents with small children, for ongoing exposure, it is 14 days from the last date of isolation for the positive case. Quarantined asymptomatic, as in not having symptoms, people may develop symptoms or test positive at any point in the 14-day period. At the point that they develop symptoms or test positive, they begin their own isolation period of that 10 days minimum. Contacts are required to quarantine. Contacts of contacts are not required to quarantine. The CDC and CDPH have specific criteria for essential critical infrastructure workers and high-density critical infrastructure workplaces. This means that critical healthcare workers, first responders, and infrastructure employees may be allowed to have a modified quarantine as long as they are asymptomatic, in coordination with their employer, at the discretion of the health officer, in order to prevent a critical staffing shortage for critical infrastructure. This means literally like the guy who keeps the power going, not the other definition of essential that we were using before. Critical, essential infrastructure employees, only if they have no symptoms, and only sometimes if their absence would create a critical staffing shortage. Public health works to provide support necessary for people to be in isolation and quarantine. This includes ensuring there's a safe place to stay, sufficient food, and necessary items like medicine and cleaning supplies. Most people have been cooperative and focused on keeping their loved ones and community safe, and legal orders are not always needed. But the health officer has the authority to write isolation and quarantine orders which are enforceable. We may collaborate with law enforcement to communicate with cases and contacts, and legal enforcement is typically a last resort. So, case investigation and contact tracing are similar but different things. Case investigations involve speaking to the positive case and determining who may have been exposed. Contact tracing involves speaking to all exposed individuals to notify them of the need to quarantine and advise them on testing and symptoms. Our ability to contain this disease is dependent on individuals providing information in a timely and forthright manner. We may need to speak to employers about workplace exposures. We may need to notify employers that people cannot be at work. And the Public Health Department frequently provides necessary documentation to people who are in isolation and quarantine. Due to the large amounts of contacts involved in our cases over the past couple of weeks, we have had to dramatically increase the number of staff who do contact tracing. At the last time I looked at the master list, the number of contacts was over 1,200. That's in the past 3 weeks. So we have had a very dramatic need for staffing. We have sought mutual aid for contact tracing and communications because we've had to pull so many of our communication staff into other work and because we've had such a dramatic need for communication. And I just want to take this time to say that we deeply appreciate the assistance of our partners in this work. We have had to bring on a lot of new people to do contact tracing and communications, and they've been doing incredible work and working crazy hours, and we really, really appreciate all of their efforts to keep the community safe. So this used to be called Roadmap to Recovery, but we'll just call it Roadmap now. As a reminder to all vulnerable populations, which includes higher risk individuals, typically those over the age of 65 or with serious medical conditions, they should continue to stay home until stage 4. They should minimize errands by getting groceries delivered or asking for help from friends and family. And they could certainly communicate to the Public Health Department and many of the county agencies if further assistance is needed. We are happy to assist them.
So being now in the mitigation phase, it's important that people realize that just because businesses are open does not mean they are risk-free. At this stage, public health cannot notify everyone who is exposed, and people should act as if everyone they come in contact with has COVID-19, and they should limit their contact with people outside of their household. Mitigation measures may include changes in the permitted activities, and the counties on the data monitoring list have been required to close sectors, including indoor dining, bars, and other sectors, by the state. If this county reaches a level at which we are on the data monitoring list, we will also be required to implement those changes. We are very close to that level. Obviously, the changes in school have had a huge impact on this community, and we have been working closely with the Tuolumne County Superintendent of Schools on recommendations for school in the coming year. Well, there is a town hall meeting that will be held this week, July 9th at 6 p.m. And information is available on our website and many other websites with details on how to submit questions and how to participate and watch the town hall meeting.
Good morning, Michelle Jaquetta, Public Health. Can you guys hear me okay with this thing on? Or should I, let me do this. Okay. Health Program Supervisor at the Public Health Department. Just want to share a little bit about our communications. We continue to share information with the public through a variety of measures, including a daily update that's shared with many stakeholders and traditional media such as newspaper, radio, and mymotherlode.com. Daily updates are also posted on our Facebook page and county websites. As our staff are currently immersed in expanded response activities, comments are temporarily not visible to the public on our Facebook posts. At this time, we don't have the resources to monitor and engage with our followers as we would like. So we encourage people to call our call center or email with questions or concerns. We look forward to the time when we can once again respond and engage with the public consistently on social media. Our call center is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That number is 533-7440. And we have a Tuolumne County Community Resources Portal devoted to COVID-19 information and resources. We also continue to work with our Joint Information Center, working with our partner agencies on coordinated messaging. On the slide are links to the state and CDC COVID-19 websites. The covid19.ca.gov website provides the most useful and up-to-date information and guidance. In alignment with state health orders and roadmap requirements, all businesses and facilities must follow the sector-specific guidance and develop a written safety plan, submit a copy of that plan to public health, and post a copy at their facility. State guidance documents have recently been updated for most of the sectors and include face coverings and other measures specific to those facilities. All facilities should review the updated guidance documents and implement any new requirements. The links here, the covid19.ca.gov website /industry-guidance has been updated, and that's where everyone can find the guidance documents. And Tuolumne County Innovation and Business Assistance website also has those links and information for businesses. We are excited to share with the public a new data dashboard that will be going live today. That dashboard will provide a more visual and interactive method for viewing COVID-19 data. It will also include the language from the daily updates and will streamline the process for getting these updates out to the public. The dashboard will be embedded onto our county website as well as that COVID-19 Community Resources Portal. And again, we expect that to go live today. Huge thanks to our planning section chief, EPI team, and County GIS for working to get this dashboard up and running. Thank you.
Happy to take questions or comment or whatever.
Board questions, Anaya?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. I just wanted to clarify just a few things that you had said. With the amount, obviously with the amount of tests going out, there's going to be more cases that we recognize, and I understand there's more transmission. But you said that there were many that were hospitalized due to symptoms, but then later on you said, and then there were some that were very sick. Are people being hospitalized specifically because of symptoms or because they are sick? As in ill and need hospitalization?
So people are only ever admitted because they require hospitalization level of care for their symptoms. So yes, they are that sick.
Okay. And do we have a count of how many have been hospitalized?
So we have a count of, in total, how many have been hospitalized, which does not include the people who didn't hit that 24-hour hospitalization mark. So 2 have crossed over and have been in there for multiple days.
Okay.
And several people were able to be discharged home before that 24-hour mark.
And then we haven't had any in ICU?
We have had people in ICU.
We have?
Yes.
But no currently?
Tuolumne County residents are not currently in the ICU.
So in our local, I'm asking this for surge capacity.
Sure.
In our local hospital, have we had any in our ICU?
Yes.
Okay. And how many have we had? And how many do we have currently?
So currently, I'm not sure of the out-of-county ones, because I think there might be someone in there from out-of-county today.
And so I can clarify, when you say out-of-county, they're here, they tested positive, they're here, they require a higher level of care,
Yep.
so they get transported out.
No. I mean, they're here in the ICU, but they are not residents of Tuolumne County.
Okay. I don't care where they're residents of, but using our ICU at our local hospital, how many have been admitted total and how many are currently admitted?
So total, I think we've had 3 or 4.
Okay.
And currently it might be 1, but it's not a county resident, so I don't have all the details.
I think we have 6 ICU beds.
We have 6 ICU beds typically. ICU beds can sort of, those are the 6 normal staffed ICU beds.
Okay.
Which is not our surge capacity, but yes.
Right. And the reason why I'm asking, like I've said multiple times, this whole thing, the whole shutdown was built on surge capacity. And so what I'm trying to pay attention to is looking at other states, other counties. What are the other counties right now currently experiencing with their capacity?
Yes. So we monitor the hospital capacity in our region through our EPI team, and then there's also, that is part of the state data monitoring. So in the Central Valley area, which is typically where people get transported to if they can't get care here or because, they're from the Central Valley. The hospitals there are at capacity or near capacity, and further south in the valley in Tulare, they're in surge. San Joaquin has been at capacity for quite some time.
And can you just explain for people who are listening, what does at surge mean?
So there's the normal typical number of beds that we have that are typically staffed. And then if you have to go beyond that, if you have to staff extra beds or convert beds to be at ICU level, then you're in surge.
Okay. And so is a trend that we're going towards that surge plan throughout the valley?
Yes.
And is there any projections, any graphs that show where we may be in a few weeks, months?
So the graphs, they're not available currently to display where we think we'll be in a few months. We expect that in a couple of weeks that many of the Central Valley hospitals will be in surge, if not sooner.
Okay. And part of the reason why I asked that is I was looking at some charts where a lot more people getting infected, but then the death rates are coming down because of better treatment, because of understanding the virus better, when to tube, when not to tube, when to use certain.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a balancing act of trying to understand more cases, more testing, more positive, but getting a better handle on the situation as we move forward too.
Sure. And we have spent many months working on hospital surge and making sure that we're able to trigger additional resources when we need them. And they have been getting triggered in some places. There is a better understanding of the disease, not necessarily better treatment at this point. And we are seeing an increase in the number of cases. We are seeing an increase in the number of deaths. And as we get better at being able to identify the number of cases because of our increased testing capacity, typically you expect to see that that death rate, even though that's a little bit warped, will go down because you're identifying milder cases. But you can look at the number of deaths, and the number of hospitalizations, the number of ICU hospitalizations, and those have all been going up.
Okay, all right.
So,
All right, Supervisor Gray?
Yeah, a question on one of your slides. You mentioned business operation guidelines.
this one.
Right. And those are guidelines for businesses that we have opened up that weren't considered essential in the past.
It includes essential and the newly permitted ones, yes.
So that would include operation guidelines for supermarkets, grocery stores, and stuff. Have all of our supermarkets in Tuolumne County given you their operation guidelines?
That is a good question for Michelle, who gets those emails.
They have not.
Okay, so how aggressive have we been about contacting those businesses and say, if you want to stay open, you have to do these guidelines in accordance to the governor's order?
Yeah, so that obviously takes an enormous amount of manpower, and we've had to focus manpower on response. That's been a collaborative process with other sectors as well to push forward that guidance. We also know that they have put in mitigation efforts; they just haven't submitted the plan. We do not have the personnel at this time to go after everyone who hasn't submitted a checklist.
So what I'm going to ask CEO Riggs to look at the possibility of getting those resources so that we can at least notify. I don't get out that much, but the places that I have go to consistently seem to be operating pretty well, with the exception of some large markets. And I believe that, it's for the public's benefit, it would be good for them to know what markets and facilities have issued those guidelines to the county, and then that way they would feel better about going to those, I believe. So go ahead.
We will talk about that here this morning in just a few minutes, a little
Okay.
later.
All right, thank you.
I don't think there are any other questions from the other supervisors. I have one, Dr. Ortiz, and that's on, briefly, could you talk about the tracing capability? I know we were stretched, and you brought in some other resources. Again, that's another piece that I'm hearing in the public, that we do not have those. And again, I know that the department was very stretched, but that's why you brought in additional resources.
Yep. So the attestation work that we did months ago, the projection was, if you have 3 times as many cases and each of those cases has 10 contacts, do you have enough contact tracers to do that? And we far exceeded that requirement at that time and continue to have that capability. But we had an enormous amount of contacts, so we had to stretch beyond even that and bring on new contact tracing people. So I believe we're even training more people today or tomorrow. It's very important that those people have the right set of skills and the right information, so they can't just be immediately deployed by volunteering. We have dramatically increased that number, and we continue to work on that. We were able to do quite a lot of catch up by using our partners, and we hope to be able to get back into containment. But again, that also relies on the cooperation of the people that we have to contact.
Absolutely. The reason I bring this up, and this may be more for Rebecca or the entire team, because I know everyone is just working an enormous amount of hours in the department. But I did join the Zoom call for the city last night, and a couple of these comments I actually heard on at the city council meeting. And there might be an opportunity to have somebody on those council meetings, and they would probably appreciate some accurate information from the health department at those. And so I'd like to talk to staff and see again.
hate to ask for one more thing. We keep asking, but I think it is important to disseminate really accurate information, and that might be an opportunity where we have some questions that could be answered by folks that really have the latest, most up-to-date information. And then the other piece that you hit on, and real briefly, is this publicity piece, because I've been out on the forest and I am just amazed. We talked about camping is permitted, but not large groups. And in every nook and cranny out there where you can shove, I've seen spaces where 15 trailers literally have taken photographs of them are just stacked on top of each other. It's not a campground. It's just amazing the out of county traffic and travel that we have coming up. And so I'd really like to look at a way that we message out of the county. We did this before, but ramp that back up and look for some participation from those counties also. San Joaquin, Stanislaus, we should be really heavily advertising this in those markets. So I'd really, I know I've brought this up in the past, but I'd like to see us try and move on that. So. With that, at this time, I'd ask if there's any public comment.
You're live with the board. You're live with the board.
Oh, okay. I just hear them talking. Thank you.
It's your turn to speak to the board.
Okay. Good morning, Board of Supervisors and staff. My name is Dory Beets. I serve as the planner and emergency manager for my tribe, the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. We have been operating in EOC since March 30th. I would like to comment on the presentation and planning status that was provided regarding COVID. As a stakeholder and partner within this county, the tribe prides itself on working together and collaborating with others to solve problems. As with everyone here in the county, in the state, and throughout this nation and the world, COVID-19 has also affected our tribal community. As we watched many other tribal governments throughout the U.S. Become impacted, our tribal EOC and our health clinic leadership decided that we needed to create a tribal-specific contact tracing team should one of our households become infected. This team is comprised of tribal EOC staff and tribal health clinic medical staff. We knew nothing about what that should look like or entail. We reached out immediately to public health for their help and direction. Without hesitation, we received assistance and links to training and documents so that we could create, train, and develop a contact tracing team of our own. Our program is modeled directly after what this county and CDC is following. While we have had no tribal cases on tribal lands, knock on wood, we wanted to be ahead of the game and to make sure that we are ready. In return, we offered to help public health if ever needed. On June 24th, we got that call and have been tracing 38 contacts since then. Tomorrow, we will close many of those contacts as they end their 14 days of quarantine. I cannot stress how amazing the staff at Public Health are. Contact tracing is not easy. When you have to call people you know or you've worked with or folks that just do not agree with recommendations, it is not easy. My tracers and I have had people hang up on us, cried, or lectured us about what they think is right. While many were kind and understanding, some just didn't want to hear it. We have watched on Facebook those who knew we were under quarantine post about going to a restaurant or out and about. My tracers and I worked after hours and on weekends, but we gained a lot of experience. Should we ever have one on our own tribal lands, we definitely will be much more in the know. Before COVID-19, we didn't know much about contact tracing, but we know now more than most. It is not for everyone. For the general public, please go easy on the contact tracers who may call you. They are truly trying to help limit the spread of this disease. From all of us to all of you who are working hard on this every day, losing sleep, staying up late, sending emails, your days consumed with Zoom and virtual meetings, thank you. To Dr. Ortiz and all of the staff at Public Health, thank you for helping us learn by helping you. We all must be patient with one another. We must be vigilant, but most importantly, we must work together. We cannot do any of this unless we do it together. We cannot succeed in limiting the spread unless we do it together. Everyone needs to do their part. Thank you.
Thank you, Dory, very much for those words. Well said, and really, really appreciate the partnership that we have had with the tribe, and would appreciate you carrying that message back to your leadership. You are a very important partner in this, and we certainly do appreciate all of the assistance and outreach and ability to work together. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Bruce Erickson, Certified Scientific Instruments, I called earlier as well. Anaya Kirk made mention of trying to get some signs put up down the way near the old Rosalindas probably 2-3 months ago, just explaining to people that we didn't want to have them coming up here. And now we're trying to close the barn door after we let the horses out, and it's just appalling. And this is just, you guys have got to get ahead of the curve on this. Secondly, we're at least 3 weeks out when you try and go ahead and get a test. So last weekend, I went ahead and tried to get a test over in Calaveras, and I got an appointment for the 12th. That wasn't soon enough because I got in contact with what I would call a couple of sketchy people, so I'm winding up getting my test done tomorrow in Michigan. I'm sending it off up there so that I can be free on the weekend to be comfortable if I'm negative. But if you're waiting 3 weeks to get your tests and you've got this issue of quarantine going on that's supposed to be like 14 days, you're not going to make it. It's just going to get worse. So you guys have got to go ahead and start trying to get your tests done here and get them done quicker rather than waiting these weeks and then finding out you're way behind the curve. And there's other just kind of appalling things. I went over to Calaveras to try and get things squared away earlier yesterday, and I found out that they're closed on Mondays, so there's nobody to take tests. So I call up our Tuolumne County Public Health, and they say, well, why don't you go over and try the hospital? Well, the hospital's not doing it either, and Quest Diagnostics is an absolute mess. So you're getting as many tests done as you think you can, but that's where you've got to start ramping up first. All this other stuff is going to have to come afterward, and you've got to get some signs up or do something, because Sherry's right about the campgrounds. It's a freaking horror show. So, and I really think our first responders, like emergency people and sheriff's deputies, need to set a standard and wear their masks when you're out in the public, just like you guys all ought to have them on where you are, because if you took your arms and tried to touch the person next to you, there you could do it, because guess what? You're closer than 6 feet. So we've got to go ahead and start setting a better standard, and you guys as our leaders have got to set an example, and you're not doing it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Thank you very much. And I know you'll be sticking around for our next item. Ms. Cunha, will you please read item 13 and item 14?
Closed session conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956. 9D4, 4 cases. Closed session, threat to public services or facilities, Authority Government Code Section 54957. Consultation with the Sheriff Bill Cooley, County Administrator Tracy Riggs, County Counsel Sarah Carrillo, Community Development Director Quincy Yaley, Public Health Officer Dr. Liza Ortiz, and Health and Human Services Agency Director Rebecca Espino.
Thank you. Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, we will adjourn to closed session. I feel like we need a yardstick so that people can see. No, but they're masked.
And June 26th of 2020, approving the agreement between Tuolumne County Department of Social Services and Motherlode Job Training for CalFresh Employment and Training Services, rescinding Resolution 1019 and adopting a resolution changing the standard days and hours of operations of the Community Development Department Permit Service Counter, rescinding Resolution 1019 and adopting a resolution changing the standard days and hours of operations of the Department of Public Works Customer Service Counters, Surveying, and Public Works, approving the subordination of lease, non-disturbance, and attornment agreement and lease estoppel certificate with CP Sonora Hills Business Plaza, County of Tuolumne, and Farmers and Merchants Bank of Central California for the lease of property located at 19890 Cedar Road, Sonora for the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office Patrol and Investigations Division, authorizing the chair to sign, approving multiple class specification revisions, approving an amendment between Tuolumne County Department of Social Services and Infant Child Enrichment Services to administer Stage 1 child care services. If you are interested in public comment, please call in to 209-533-6581 right now, please.
Would any member like to pull an item? Seeing none, is there any public comment on any of the items? No public comment. I'll bring this back to the board.
Move on consent.
Second.
A motion from Supervisor Rotifer, a second from Supervisor Gray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. In the interest of trying to get some of our staff back to work where they are, I know they're so missed, will the clerk please read item 11?
Presentation and board direction on education and compliance on the state and local health officers' orders related to COVID-19.
All right, Ms. Riggs.
Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office. Today we come before your board in the creation of a new division under our Public Health Department during this health emergency. Our recommendation and what we're asking the board to support is that we would create a education and compliance division within the Public Health Department. This would be a series of individuals who would work under the scope of the public health officer. It would be a complaint and education line. So not only would they respond to complaints if someone thought a business was out of compliance, they would also provide education. This is also about developing a relationship with our community and our businesses. So as an example, if a complaint came in to say that a business was out of compliance, an individual from this team would go to that business and they would observe and they would talk with the manager and or owner, and they would provide them some materials in which they would learn if they were out of compliance, what did they need to come into compliance. If they were in compliance, we would just tell them, great, thank you so much, and all of this would be logged. The other thing we're asking that your board would approve would that we would provide a grant of sorts to businesses for a specific amount, and it could be we've thrown around $1,000, $2,000. This would be a reimbursement to the businesses for those who are in compliance for purchase of the PPE that was required for them to come into compliance. They would turn in receipts to the department. They would then create a claim, and a check would be generated to reimburse the individuals for the cost incurred. That would allow them to not experience some of the costs that some of our businesses are relaying that it can get expensive. And we would like to get this started right away. We would have an individual who would oversee this. We are working with someone right now that would work under the health department, specifically with our public health officer. And then that individual would oversee all of the other employees and or volunteers who would be part of this team to begin going out to their community and providing education. And we would like to get started immediately, just seeking your board's approval of that, and then also your approval that we would be able to give some type of grant, a reimbursement program for our businesses, and the dollar amount of up to that you would approve for us to give out.
Just a question, and this would be funded through?
This is funded with our CARES Act, and what I didn't do is line out in here. There is a whole series of events, and so we would do visits. If someone was found not to be in compliance, we would give them the education material. We would also give them the forms and the materials they would need to be able to participate in a reimbursement program, should your board approve it. We would return in, say, 5 to 7 days to see if they were in compliance. If they weren't, we'd have another conversation with the individual. Eventually, after enough, and if it's an egregious enough that they're just saying they're not going to ever come into compliance, there is the option then of doing a referral to state agencies that might oversee them and provide some type of certification and or license. That would be for someone, if it's a restaurant and they have an a license for alcohol, it could be ABC. It could be Cal OSHA. There's also the business consumer affairs. That would be the last resort. The first would be really education, and then trying to provide some type of financial means, if should your board approve it, to reimburse any costs related to coming into compliance.
What is a reasonable amount?
We were thinking anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 up to, so that would be the extent of it. I think it depends on the size of the business and how long this goes on. So if you were to say a business could get up to $2,000 over the course of this health emergency, then we would just have to keep track of who got it and how much. So.
Okay.
So again, reiterate, this is a non-punitive action. It's to educate, to help facilitate a conversation for businesses to be safe and operate, and to give them the monies to do that. I have a question for you and then a question for Dr. Ortiz. Can you explain why we're doing this? Not from the surge plan, but from...
Right, so you want to from an administrative point, and then Dr. Ortiz can speak to the medical.
Correct.
So from an administrative standpoint, for those who don't know and your board is aware, that in order to be eligible for the CARES Act, which for Tuolumne County, the allocation is $5.5 million, and then also for the backfill for realignment for both our Health and Human Services and Public Safety, which is another $1.1 million. In order to be eligible, we have to engage in the compliance part of this health emergency. And so from my standpoint with finances and administration, that's why we're making the recommendation. Like I said, it is in partnership, obviously, under the authority of our local health officer.
So Riggs, is it safe to say if we don't come into compliance, we don't get that money, that comes out of general fund?
Meaning
The money that we're using to offset to deal with all this?
Yeah, so especially the backfill and realignment, the CARES Act has to specifically be for
Right.
costs related to, and this would be that. So all the costs that we would incur for this division would all be borne out of the CARES Act.
But we already have costs incurred.
We have some costs, and we have already identified some that will also go under the CARES Act as well.
Okay, so I'm trying to make it clear for people out there. If we're already dedicating money, time, and energy to this, if we didn't get the funding,
Yes.
when we're talking about libraries, parks, recreation, these things, it's continued money that's going to be sucked out of
Correct.
resources that we don't have.
Right, general
So
fund, or if it were.
it's
health
a
and human
teeter-totter of trying to come in compliance, trying to still respect people's rights and liberties, but trying to do this educationally, safely, and really help the businesses provide financial assistance to help them comply with these mask orders. In other words, okay. And
Sorry,
then-
you had a question for me.
Yeah, and so the question for you was, from your point, why do we need to, we were talking about surge earlier, why do we need to work with these businesses for the current mandate?
Yeah, so bringing helping businesses have the education and the resources that they need to be in compliance with all of the guidelines will help us slow the transmission of disease, which will help us avoid medical surge. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take off my mask to get on my soapbox here. So, yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think that it's clear that we need to take additional steps to educate the community and make sure that there is compliance with these rules. If we look at what's going on in other rural counties like Tulare and San Joaquin that are larger than ours but still have a similar rural character, we're seeing a surge in those areas. So we need to take some additional steps, and we need to do it now. I think this goes, it's a way to accomplish that, to increase the education and then also make funds available for those businesses that don't have the resources to get their own PPE. To me, it's a pretty stark choice. We either follow these guidelines now or push back when schools and other public gatherings open. There's no other options right now that we can follow, and this is the best we have, and we need to. Everybody needs to do their part.
Okay. Any other comments? One final comment is, because again, I did hear this at the city council meeting last night, concern about their CARES Act funding if the county does not follow the guidance from the state. And I want to be really clear that the county has followed all of the guidance from the state. And this is the next step in that, and we are actually somewhat mimicking what the state is doing with really trying to provide some resources. That piece, I think, is important to get businesses to assist them in coming into compliance, and then following up with the state if there are those egregious cases. So we want to be really clear on that, and actually would thank the city administrator for articulating that last night, that the health department has really worked diligently and has been dedicated to following the state guidance as we have received it. So again, I think it's important to acknowledge all of your effort and thank everyone that's been involved in that. And this is the next piece in that. So I guess if I'm looking across the dais for consensus, or would you prefer a motion?
Well, I would like if they're going to approve a specific amount for reimbursement to businesses, that you would give me that amount, and that, yes, there would be board direction so that we can incorporate that. We may need to come back with a budget item where we can amend unless we can make it through the end until we get to adopted. But we'll look at that. But right now, I would like direction from the board.
Up to 2,000?
2,000.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
2,000?
Yeah.
So we have consensus on that?
2,000. Great, thank
Right.
you.
And consensus on the development
Still have public comment.
I'm looking at your Division of Education and Compliance. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Public comment.
Is there any public comment on this item? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom Taylor. I am a citizen from District 5, and I'm just baffled at this point that you guys keep talking about education. Like, we are, 4 or 5 months into this pandemic now. When we move past education and into actual enforcement of these guidelines, I really feel like putting out enforcement for another couple of weeks or however long while you guys try to educate people who have had plenty of opportunity to educate themselves, and at this point are just being willfully ignorant about it, puts us all at risk before you guys can actually get to enforcement. I don't know how long you plan to wait for that, but I feel like we're running out of time for that. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Direction and guidance.
Item 8.
Consideration of approving an appointment to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission with a term to expire February 2021 due to the resignation of District 4 representative.
Jaylee.
Good morning, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. The item before you here is to consider approving an appointment to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission because Commissioner Jerry Baker resigned earlier this year. The term will expire February 15th, 2021. If you recall back to when I talked about our budget, you might recall me admitting to the fact that it's likely I'm going to make mistakes. And this is one of those board items that I regret to inform you that I have made a mistake. In the attachments, Ms. Lupo's application is attached. She had emailed me requesting it to be withdrawn. I missed the email. So Ms. Lupo's application is included. She would not like to be considered. In addition, Mr. Segerstrom's application is included in your packet. He had actually submitted for a different committee, and his application was inadvertently included in your packet today. So I admit, I told you I'd make mistakes. Here's one of them. The third application in your, two, thanks. The third application is an county employee, and while we appreciate his enthusiasm and wish to serve on the Planning Commission, ordinance code prevents him from doing so. So that leaves you with one application for consideration today. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, I think you made the process much simpler with all your mistakes.
You're welcome.
No, in all seriousness, I would like to nominate Mark Banks for the position. Mark serves on our Board of Supervisors planning committee, and he's done a good job there. And he's got some experience and background, so it's not like he's going to have to. You're going to have to train him from the bottom up. I think he'll be good. So my nomination would be for Mark Banks.
Second.
All right. Before we take the vote, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion from Supervisor Gray, a second from Supervisor Rotifer. Are there any other comments? Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, roll call? No, we don't have to. Okay, I'm sorry.
Motion carries.
Too many Zoom meetings.
Thank you.
We will thank Mr. Banks for considering this new opportunity for him and let him know that the motion carried 5-0. All right, will the clerk please read item 9?
Consideration of approving a letter of support to Continuum of Care recommending the following projects receive the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program project funding. County Administrator's Office for the amount of $250,000, Health and Human Services Agency for the amount of $144,233, Resiliency Village for the amount of $274,785.
Mrs. Pino.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Earlier this year, your board adopted a resolution to redirect the county's portion of the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program funds, also known as HHAP, to the Central Sierra Continuum of Care. During this meeting, your board made it very clear that it was essential that you had input on the selection of the projects submitted to the COC. As a result, the COC created a process to give the board an opportunity to assign 10 bonus points to one or more proposals. Staff is pleased to announce that 5 proposals were received by the COC, but unfortunately, the request for funding by the 5 proposals far exceeded the county's HHAP allocation of $669,018. Therefore, staff reviewed each proposal and respectfully recommends your board assign 10 bonus points and a specified funding amount to the following 3 projects. The County Administrator's Office proposal for $250,000 to fund the Homeless Advocate and Outreach Coordinator position. The Health and Human Services Agency proposal for $144,233 to assist homeless former foster youth. the Resiliency Village proposal for $274,785 to invest in a capital project to build a homeless shelter and a support system needed to end homelessness in Tuolumne County. In closing, it is respectfully recommended your board assign 10 bonus points and funding amounts to the proposals recommended by staff who have conducted a comprehensive review of each project and each project's alignment to the county's homeless plan. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, is there public comment?
Good morning. And thank you very much for your support. This is Mark Dyken from Resiliency Village, the Executive Director, and just want to tell you how much we appreciate the diligence that the supervisors have put into looking deeply at the homeless situation. And we're honored and grateful to take this role in helping to work on this project, and really look forward to working with all of you and Calais and everybody in Human Services to really make a dent in something that's been troubling us for a long time. So it's very appreciated, and we really take this job seriously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to bring this back to the board.
Madam Chair, I would very much like to move on staff recommendation. It goes without saying that the funding that's going to go to our county offices is going to some very good folks that are doing some very good work. But I also want to very much highlight the Resiliency Village and the work that they're doing. This is not a problem that government can solve in and of itself. This is a problem that needs community cohesiveness, and Resiliency Village is an excellent example of that. So with that, I move on staff recommendation.
I'll second with a comment, though. In 2019, we set vulnerable populations as one of our main priorities, and this goes towards that. So we're doing what we said we're going to do, but we couldn't do it without all the staff that works diligently to get it done. So thank you. And that was my second.
Yeah, and I agree completely with those comments. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of work from staff and from the community went into developing these projects, and they really get at the heart of the homelessness issue in our community. And I'm very encouraged to see these go forward.
Yeah, I'll just ditto what the rest of the board said, and especially what Supervisor Rodefer said. The more government gets involved with issues, especially this homeless issue, I look at some of these larger cities, it looks like it's a bigger mess. So I'm excited to partner with some of these organizations. I have my own opinions about a lot of the homeless issues, especially working in state prison. I think I'm a little jaded, but I read my Bible, and there's a scripture that says, "You shall open your hand to him and lend to him sufficient for his need, whatever it may be." And so we have people in our community who are in need, and we need to get behind them. But it needs to be a group effort. It needs to be a community effort. And so I support this because it's going to give resources to people who may be able to do it better than government. But we can be part of that pie, and we can be part of that conversation and help organize it. But so I'm hoping for good things in the future. So thank you.
All right, this is one of those items that I think all five of us would have moved on or seconded on, but we are going to give the motion to Supervisor Rodefer, the second to Supervisor Gray. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Ms. Cunha, will you please read item 10?
Consideration of providing direction on potential measures for the November 2020 ballot to address revenue for county fire and other services.
Pardon me while I set up. It's been a little while since I've been here.
No, welcome back.
Okay, well, while that heats up, Liz Peterson, I'm with the County Administrator's Office. I am here today, this morning, to get some direction from your board about any potential ballot measures you might like to see in November. This would be for the November 3rd general election. So we're going to discuss a few options this morning. And again, just looking for some direction, and we'll discuss more about that at the end. Okay, so as you know, we often discuss this at the beginning of presentations, and the mission statement here for your board is to commit to providing exceptional public service that creates a healthy and safe community, exercises natural, cultural, and financial resource stewardship, promotes economic prosperity, and enhances the quality of life. So just for the public's reminder, and as we move forward in the discussion, this is our goal. Okay, so when we talk about revenue options, there are a variety of different options that are available to your board and just in general to collect revenue. So there's taxes, which is a levy on any individual entity, regardless of the use of the service. It's just kind of it's imposed on whoever, whatever kind of group it happens to be imposed on. Then there's an assessment, which is an involuntary charge on real property or business. So you often hear about maybe assessments for a variety of different things. And then that can be in proportion to the benefit that each parcel or business receives. So there's kind of a service and then an assessment for that service. Fees, similarly, sometimes they're called rates. There's various different types of fees, so utility rates we're often familiar with. Any other benefit assessments, user fees, those would be fees for services, and that would be the fee is charged based on the cost of the service. And then, of course, there's general taxes. Those are imposed to raise general revenues. It requires just a majority of the vote to pass. And then your board, in this case, would have the discretion to spend that general tax however you would like. And then there's special tax, and that revenue goes for a specific purpose. That requires 2/3 of the vote to approve the special tax. And there's a parcel tax. That is a special tax, so it requires 2/3 of the vote. And that goes on a parcel of real property. It's generally a flat rate per parcel, but that's not always the case. And so we'll discuss more. So I just want to give you that backdrop, knowing that there's a lot of different revenue options. Okay, so this is going to be a refresher from last year. We discussed transient occupancy tax. We had a measure on the ballot in March. It didn't pass, but I just want to give your board the opportunity to discuss this once again, just to see if there's any additional interest in putting this on the ballot in November. Transient occupancy tax is a general tax that's applied to the rental of accommodations for less than 30 consecutive days. At this point, Tuolumne County collects 10%, and this is on the rental of hotels, motels, and house rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, those types of things. We currently do not collect TOT on campgrounds or RV sites. Again, this may be familiar from last year, but this is by comparison, the different rates that counties collect for TOT. I do want to just bring to your board's attention the lower rate ones, especially for our valley, San Joaquin, Stockton, Stanislaus County, those lower rates that they collect. That's for the county, the unincorporated area. The majority of those counties have multiple incorporated cities, and those city rates are different, often higher than the county itself. But this is kind of how we all stack up with our neighbors. This is the historic, what we've collected in the past 4 years, and then this year what we've collected so far. As your board knows, our TOT revenue from 1920 is going to be severely impacted by COVID-19. So this is what we have collected so far. I know we're still finalizing the numbers, but it will be a decrease, but we have historically seen an increase every year. So if your board would be interested in making adjustments to or increasing our TOT collection rate. This, again, might be familiar from last year, but if we were to increase it by 2% and add RVs and campgrounds, you can see what the revenue what we would generate in revenue. If we want to increase by 4% to get us to 14%, then you can see also what the revenue generated there. So just wanted to give that as an option to your board. I'm happy to pause if you want to discuss this now, or we can move forward. We're going to also discuss some options for funding fire services in particular. And so we can have a discussion in total at the end of the presentation, however you'd like to do that.
Are there any questions at this time on the TOT piece?
Yeah, I just have one question. And this is for all staff. What is the purpose of a transient occupancy tax?
Oh, yeah. Good question. The purpose of TOT tax is to collect revenue for the services that are used by folks who visit our area. So that's why when we talk about maybe including campgrounds and RVs, why we tax temporary lodging facilities, hotels, motels. It's for folks who come visit us and use our services. It's a way to gather some revenue to help offset those costs.
So is that primarily paid by local residents or by visitors from out of county?
It's primarily paid by visitors from out of county. I mean, that's the majority of folks who use those facilities, although, of course, folks who live here and like to camp or whatever, they could potentially pay that also.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So moving on. Now we're going to talk about funding fire in particular, because this has been a topic of discussion for quite a while now. So the reason why we're here talking specifically about fire is that there have been some funding challenges over the years. Primarily, property tax and other revenue has not kept up with expenses, and Assistant Chief Murphy, in his presentation to your board during the budget in June, gave a good history of kind of how property tax has changed over the years, but nevertheless, it has changed. There's also more competition for grants. The state fire reimbursement is unpredictable. And then, of course, we have increased expenses with fire personnel, just like we have with all other types of personnel for services. And then there's greater service demand. EMS delivery continues to grow. The expectation from the community for a fire truck being there for a response, often for medical calls, continues to grow. I know we have that. I don't have the data on me, but for medical calls, it continues to increase each year. And fire responds to those. And then, of course, they also respond to natural disasters. And with the increase in fires that we've seen over the last handful of years here in California in particular, but worldwide, there is a greater demand on fire. And then they also provide technical rescue services that they didn't always do in the past. And so their service expectations are growing more and more. This is just for your board's information and for the public too, actually, to show how much we have contributed from the general fund to our fire service over the years. As you can see, it is growing significantly in the last couple of years in particular. This is just to kind of balance, to get fire to even sort of a bare minimum of services. So yeah, it continues to grow, and yes.
Just a clarification, a big chunk of that growth in both 1920 and 2021 is to replace.
Just in 1920 was to add an additional vehicle, but in 2021 that was just to get them to balance.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the recommendation from County Administrator's Office is for your board to consider a parcel tax to fund fire. When we look at all of the options that we discussed earlier, we felt like this is maybe the most straightforward, could be the most successful potentially on the ballot, and might be the most successful in getting county fire to where we want it to be now and for the future. So if we were to look at a parcel tax, we would be taxing approximately 26,823 parcels in the county. So this excludes the City of Sonora parcels. It excludes any other fire districts that we might have. And then it includes other public parcels such as schools or other government-owned parcels. And then it includes it excludes a few parcels that are not real property, that we don't collect property tax on currently. So the parcel types that we would be including are mobile homes that are within mobile home parks, unimproved parcels. So these are parcels that have no habitable structures, such as ag land, vacant lots that we see in residential areas, etc. Then, of course, residential lots, commercial lots, and then business parcels. And these are tenants who reside on commercial property with a business that's valued over $5,000. This is consistent with how we collect property tax. So an example would be the Junction Shopping Center. That that's a commercial property, but each business within the junction would also be taxed. And that, again, is consistent with how we already operate. Okay, so when we look at needing to fund fire, the priorities for our county fire service are to stabilize the county fire budget first and foremost. And so back to that historic, what we've contributed from the general fund, that is to get to this first bullet point, to stabilize county fire budget. We also next want to establish a strategic fleet replacement program within 10 years, and then have a schedule for future replacement also. We also want to have a plan for replacement of required equipment. So self-contained breathing apparatus, jaws of life, some of these other things, again, that fire needs to respond to the things that not only the community expects, but that we need fire to do. And we want to establish a plan to modernize emergency response dispatching. So that means mobile data terminals, like computer type things in the engines, automatic vehicle locators, and that would move toward efficiency. So whatever vehicle, whatever fire engine happens to be closest to the incident, they can respond and be dispatched. Right now, we don't have that capability. And then we would establish the ability to potentially build 3 new fire stations by looking strategically at our fire station location, putting a plan together, modernizing our existing facilities, and then, again, building new ones, as well as staffing them. Those are the priorities. That's where we're trying to get to. So if we look at a parcel tax, I'm giving your board 3 options, or we're giving your board. It's certainly not me. So if we looked at a flat rate of $65 per parcel, again, we would be looking at 26,823 parcels. It gets us to $1.7 million. Of the priorities that I just spoke about, the only thing that this revenue would do is allow us to stabilize our county fire budget. We wouldn't really be able to replace our required equipment. We wouldn't really be able to replace our fire apparatus that we need. We could do some, and we'd have some money for deferred maintenance, but it wouldn't necessarily get us to where we need to be, again, with the replacement of fire engines. And then that would be no new fire stations would be built, staffed, or remodeled. If we look at a $90 parcel tax, again, flat rate across the board with all of the parcels here in the county, county fire budget would be stabilized. We would be able to purchase all of the mandated equipment, and it would be able to be replaced as needed. But again, we would be able to maybe build 2 new fire stations, but no staff would be included in that. We would be able to upgrade some engines, but not all, and we would still have some that would remain almost 30 years old. And then no reserves would be set aside to fund new fire engines in the future. If we were to do 130 flat rate across the board, we would be able to achieve all of the goals, all of the priorities that County Fire feels are necessary. However, we recognize that charging a flat parcel tax across the board for every parcel may or may not be feasible for a variety of reasons. And so we wanted to give your board some options for variable rates. But I do want you to consider a couple things. First, that all parcel types utilize fire service. So while county fire's responsibility is for structure protection, not necessarily wildland fire protection, county fire still does respond to things like ATV accidents on vacant lots, or hazmat situations, or a variety of other things. And so all parcel types do use fire services. So just want you to consider that. And then, of course, we want to make sure that if your board does want to put this on the ballot, that we keep the ballot measure language simple, that too many kind of caveats or, variety might potentially be confusing, difficult to comprehend, especially with terms that maybe we understand or that we use commonplace, but that aren't very familiar to folks. Might be difficult, and that could harm us. So just want to keep that in mind too. And then we would, if your board wants to put a parcel tax on, we do want to add the language that the tax rate should increase by the CPI annually and have no termination date. So back to the variable rate options. These are some that we put together just as some options. Your board can give us other options if you'd like us to explore. One is that mobile homes, and these are mobile homes within mobile home parks, and unimproved parcels could pay $75. And then residential, commercial, and business could pay $150. Again, trying to get to this $3.4-ish million a year, because that's what we recognize we need to get County Fire to a place where they can achieve all of their goals and priorities and provide the services that the community expects. Option 2, unimproved parcels could pay $50, mobile homes could pay $75, and then residential, commercial, business would pay $160. So the timeline for the ballot is this requires 2 readings of the ordinance. So looking at just kind of regularly scheduled board meetings, this would mean that the July 21st, this is the next board meeting from here to the next in 2 weeks, would be the first reading. And I apologize, that's a typo here. The public hearing wouldn't happen until the second meeting. So then we would do the second reading of the ordinance on August 4th. If any changes happen to the ballot measure on the July 21st meeting, then we would have to have a special meeting to have a reread of that first ordinance. The deadline to place it on the ballot is August 7th. And again, as I mentioned, this requires 2/3 approval of county voters. And this is an interesting fact that your board also needs to be aware of, that this includes all voters in all districts, including the special districts that wouldn't be charged the tax, including City of Sonora residents. So while they wouldn't be charged the tax, the Fire reminded me that they do still use the services, and it would enhance our ability to provide auto aid to the other districts. So they would indirectly still be able to utilize the service, but they wouldn't be charged the tax. They would still have to vote on it. Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, we're looking for some direction. We have some options here. So do you want to do taxes? Would you like to do a TOT, put that on the ballot? And would you like to do a parcel tax for fire or any other option? And then at what rates? If you want to do a parcel tax, do you want to do a flat rate, or do you want to do variable? And at what rate would you like that to be? And then what would you like that timeline to be to bring this back to your board? Again, reminding you that if you make any revisions in a board meeting, then we have to come back and do the reading all over again, the ordinance reading. It requires 2 readings. So our recommendation is that we focus exclusively on funding fire services for now, that maybe we consider a TOT for the future. Again, as I mentioned, that we do a simple measure without a lot of variability in the language, that we have no sunset period on the parcel tax if that's the way your board wants to go, and then that the tax would increase, the rate would increase by the CPI annually, capped at 2%, which is consistent with Proposition 13 increases on property tax. And we are recommending that you go with the variable rate of option 1, which means mobile homes and unimproved parcels would pay $75 a year, and residential, commercial, and business would pay $150 a year. That's what I have, and looking for, like I said, recommendations and direction.
So we're aware that there's other special districts that are in the same boat that Tuolumne County is as far as funding their fire. Is there a possibility that those special districts could tag along on this ballot measure, and their particular properties be taxed accordingly?
For the areas that are excluded, the districts, they would need their own ordinances and resolutions to be on the ballot also. So it would take coordination with those agencies.
Okay, that would make sense to try to do that. And then I think the voters would be more likely in, say, the city of Sonora to vote if they know that they're going to be actually getting some more money for their fire service. Just a thought. Don't know how to do it, but that's why we have you guys.
Yeah, I just want to remind you that you were talking about getting, and we can reach out to them, but they would need to get this done in the next 2 weeks so they can get the reading and do their work. But we can definitely reach
Understand.
out to them. Yeah, for sure. Also, I'm sorry, one more thing is just to remind your board that you remember last year we did work with I actually met with them with Mo when she pulled them together. And that's why it got put off so long last year, because we kept waiting for the special districts. They couldn't make a decision, and so my direction to Mo and to Liz at that time was, let's move on without them. We have issues. We can have that conversation again. I just want to kind of as a reminder that we did try that previously.
That raised a question for me. So are only residents for which this parcel tax would apply be voting for it, or would it be the entire county, including incorporated parts of the city and other special districts?
The electorate voting on the measure is defined by the agency that's imposing it, the jurisdiction of that agency. So if the county, your board, is imposing the tax or proposing to impose it, it would be all residents of the county that are residing here and registered to vote here, countywide. It's only if this tax were imposed by your board sitting as a CSA or a district with a narrower boundary that it could be limited to just residents affected.
Okay.
And that's based on case law defining that term electorate in the Constitution.
Okay.
Question. Do you know what 2 stations we're talking about fixing or implementing?
So if we were able to collect the 3.4 million a year, now obviously we would have to look at actual construction costs at the time that we were getting there, and as you know, construction costs continue to increase every year.
I'm just curious about the communities. Do you know which ones?
Yeah, so we would be looking at the Smith Station up in Groveland. We would be looking at Mono Village, and I apologize, I have that data with me.
I think I have it.
And
Jamestown?
then Jamestown, yes, yeah.
Okay. And are any of those, sorry, I should know this, but are any of those currently not operating? Or is this just fixing?
I'll defer to Chief Cashy on that.
And the reason why I ask is if any of them aren't operating, if we get these operating or additional fire stations, how that might impact insurance. Because I believe you have to be within 5 miles, right, of a service area to get better insurance coverage. Maybe somebody might know. It's probably an insurance broker question.
Yeah, I think that the insurance, I know with Chief White, before Chief Cashy, there was a lot of discrepancy about those types of things, trying to communicate to insurance companies those types of measures that they weren't necessarily in agreement with, even though fire uses those types of measures. Insurance companies didn't necessarily.
Well, good morning, Chair Brandon, members of the board, CEO Riggs. You're a little muffled in the back, but was the question about Mono Vista, Smith Station, and Jamestown being operable right now?
They're currently operable, right?
Yeah, so we have facilities. However, Mono Vista and Smith Station are volunteer staff. Smith Station has had 0 volunteers for several years. It is a facility that we have that's in condition that is questionable. And then Mono Vista, we do have volunteers that run out of Mono Vista. But that's our highest level of call volume right now for an unstaffed station is the Mono Vista area. And then Jamestown, we're running out of the Jamestown facility, which is a contractor's trailer that's been 10 years old that our staff is staying in, and then a detached garage that was a federal excess building transferred there. So those are the 3 facilities that we'd be looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, while you're up there, I got a question since
Okay.
Since you're up here, I'm going to put you on the spot. So we purchased a new engine this year, correct? When was the last time we purchased an engine? Prior to this year.
I should know that. Chief Murphy would have that right off the top of his head. I'm not. Do you remember? 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there any prospects for replacing an additional engine next year or in the years ahead?
Not currently. So what
Not unless we give you the money, huh?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've evaluated the current fleet that we have. We've identified how old the average age of the fleet is, as well as we're at the point where we're just not fixing certain pieces of apparatus because the money to fix them isn't there, as well as volunteers to respond them isn't there. So as we evaluate that, most of this would be outlined in the draft strategic plan that we have that's pending review right now to kind of give us that roadmap of what can we do to update our fleet in current standards today, make it more operable, and actually get a plan with funding in place. But right now, we don't have a fleet replacement plan due to the fact that we just don't have funding.
Mm-hmm. And so it's about an engine every 3 or 4 years is kind of what we've been.
I think he talks about in the presentation, Liz, what is it? About in 10 years, we would have over 50% of the fleet under that.
Yeah.
That would start to get replaced. So it puts us on a path to have a plan to start incrementally updating the fleet in the county to better serve.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have some other comments, but I'll wait till after public.
I do have a question just because the slides. If we got the full funding, some of those stations are volunteer, we'd be able to put full-time residents or full-time firefighters. And I think I need to get some clarification from the insurance brokers or folks, because I believe if you have full-time staff stations, it does something to the rating, the ISO rating.
Yeah, again, so insurance doesn't necessarily look at ISO rating. That's
Okay.
That's the frustration.
Okay.
That was Chief White's frustration. Is, proximity to fire hydrants is another one.
Okay.
They don't necessarily look at that.
I'm just, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have comments later, but no questions. No more
All right.
questions.
I'm going to jump in, and maybe Kanan can answer my questions a little bit. As I'm looking across the dais at how many remember the last time this was attempted in the county and when it failed. And I will say that I think, if my memory is correct, county is composed of 88% public lands. I'm sorry, 78%. And of the balance that's remaining, I believe 92% is in Williamson Act contracts and basically is in some form of commercial agriculture. And then roughly around 4% falls into the other categories. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. However, parcels, can vary in size. So we may have a large majority in Williamson Act, but the number of parcels actually in it may be, not as many.
Well, I guess I'd like that number because I would dispute that fact because I know a number of ranches that may be composed of 12, 15 parcels. I know they are very prevalent in the county, and it was a big piece of the pushback the last time we did this because they were very frustrated at the idea that they would have to pay multiple times. I think they support, if I remember the conversation, they support the concept of fire protection protects buildings, and it was stated, those kinds of assets. But
I think I know exactly what you're asking for. Is there a way to get that on the? So we do have, after removing all the parcels in the fire district areas and in the city of Sonora, we have it broken down by use code so you could actually see how many parcels that are Williamson Act, how many parcels that are unimproved would actually fall in the tax. And I think that would just be helpful to kind of go over.
Just a comment, couldn't we, under those Williamson Act properties, tax them according to their number?
Their approved parcel, or I think
No,
there's a way, and I
what
think
I-
they would participate and feel there's a need.
Yeah.
It's balancing it.
I'm trying to come up with the wording when you do their contract number. Even though it's multiple parcels, you only have one contract number. And I don't know how Canaan keeps track of that, because I'm sure it's one contract number that you
I believe
tax,
so.
not every single parcel. Is that correct?
It is every single parcel.
Is it?
But there is one Williamson Act contract. It depends when the property owner put it into Williamson Act. If they did it in segments, there could be multiple contracts. But if they did it all at once, then there would just be one contract. And so this, in the area that we kind of highlighted, for dry grazing parcels, which would be in the Williamson Act, there's 482. Then there's 80. Then there's 4 with permanent pastures and 185 with home sites.
That's of the 487. That's the.
Oh, no, that's in addition to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have another kind of idea along those lines. Could we cap it? So say for people that are in that type of situation where they have multiple properties and they'd be essentially taxed several times over, could we just say, the total amount of tax each individual taxpayer would pay would be, $225 or something like that, so that if you do have multiple properties, you're not bearing an undue amount of that burden?
I do understand what you're saying. Administration-wise, that would probably need to be coordinated with the auditor's office and our office. It might get pretty burdensome calculating it all, because we do it just on, APN, assessor parcel numbers, not necessarily by owner name. And then there's other owners that may own parcels under different ownership. Maybe they use their middle name, maybe they have it under an LLC, maybe they have last name. It could get a little tricky. However, if there were certain ones that, it might be easier to just go ahead and exclude certain use codes than get it to something that would be pretty cumbersome to administer.
I'm going to suggest that if we want to find success in this, we're going to have to find a way to make it equitable.
Yeah, so if you were to remove Williamson Act, it looks like it'd be about 600 parcels.
And again, I don't know that that's the answer, because I think those folks would agree that their homes, they would want to see protection for their homes, and they're not disagreeing with, I don't think, that argument at all.
Another possibility could be like a direct charge for Williamson Act on an annual basis.
I think Ms. Batista might have some thoughts on this.
So we'd have a charge for improved parcels, unimproved parcels, and then Williamson Act?
Well, you would do the Williamson Act just as a solely separate issue. That's something that can just be approved by the Board of Supervisors. And it's to kind of compensate for the county's loss of property taxes. I believe there's a couple counties that have done.
So would you be just excluding Williamson Act?
You would exclude them from the parcel tax, and then if you wanted to at another point, your board could adopt a resolution to go ahead and do a direct charge on Williamson Act parcels.
I see.
No.
Ms. Batista.
Hi, sorry. I had another appointment. The reason why one wants to use parcel tax is how simple it is to administer it. So basically, we don't look at who owns the property. We look at all the different tax rate areas and whether or not the tax rate areas are going to be part of this or not. And then if they are, if we're going to use codes, then the use codes on it. But it needs to be more of a matrix and more of everybody is treated, or every entity or type of entity is treated one way. We have lots of parcels that change ownership We have lots of parcels that get split. We have lots of parcels, as Kanan was pointing out, that maybe the parcel was Debbie Batista, then we put it in the Batista Family Trust, then we changed the Batista Family Trust to Mark and Debbie Batista Family Trust, and if you don't get every single parcel, you could still have some of them in Debbie Batista and some in the Family Trust, and I do not have the staff to administer that and keep track of it. How many parcels do we have in the whole county? 38,000, I believe. That's just too big. There's got to be a common denominator either at the tax rate area, at the use code area, or something that my staff also only has a very narrow window of time to apply all of these assessments, parcels, taxes between about the 10th of August and the end of August, so I can come to you and get you to approve the tax rates and then put it on all of the bills to turn it over to the treasurer, or tax collector, so the tax collector could then print the bills and get them out to the public by October 1st. And if we're trying to maintain, pick a number, anybody who has greater than 7 parcels, we only charge them the first 7. That's almost impossible for my staff not to mess up.
So it might be easiest if you're looking to kind of come up with a more balanced approach for Williamson Act land contracts would be to exclude those use codes, and then if approved by the voters, you could then come back as a board and tackle that on a more balanced approach.
Would that solve the issue of the complexity for you?
Absolutely. If you exclude the Williamson Act, then they won't be part of the APN numbers that we apply the fee to.
I just want to make sure, and you guys, I think you all know this, that would be 600 parcels that would obviously come out of that calculation to get to that $3.4 million that we're trying to get to be able to, stabilize the department as well as take care of our equipment and do some other permanent staffing. So just.
But then I thought I heard Kanan say then you would go back and put the appropriate assessment on the Williamson Act contract.
So if the board chose to, it's not
Correct.
something that has to happen. And I think what she's alluding to is, it's about 29,000 parcels that we're looking at, and excluding the 600 parcels will have an impact, but it may not be as large of it.
And
You
again,
could raise it up to $160 and probably cover it.
And my question is, if you put it on the Williamson Act's contract, who's collecting that? Again, we'll have the same issue if we're going to do it via the tax bill. Because how do I pick which one to put the 7 parcels on versus the not 7 parcels or 15 or, again, unless.
Versus unimproved.
Well, so as she was alluding to, we can do it by use code, and so we do have improved Williamson Act and unimproved Williamson Act. So if the board came back at a later point and wanted to make different adjustments to those, what she is saying though is we can't do it by owner name. That'd be pretty cumbersome.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
if
just-
I understand you right, that secondary action that you're talking about would be a board action, or does that have to go to the voters as well?
I'm pretty sure it's a board action, but I'll let Chris.
Well, yeah, it would be though, wouldn't, because we would just be reducing the Williamson Act funding by whatever portion.
Let him answer.
That
No,
would
you'd be
take
adding
further research
tax.
by our
Or
office.
yeah,
If it's a fee, your board could do that. If it's a tax, it would require a vote.
Just with some quick and dirty math, if we were to exclude the use code, the use code 50.
Well, 50s.
Oh, all 50s, sorry.
So 50. 3. Yeah. 50, 51.
It would get us to about $3,370,000 a year annually. We're looking to get in the neighborhood of 3.4, 3.5.
I guess I'm a little confused because Williamson Act is a tax break essentially. And if we were just looking at reducing that break by, a small amount to make it fair with those property taxpayers that would be paying the fire parcel tax, would that action require the voters, or because that tax is already on the books, and so we're talking about adjusting it. Not
So I see Ms. Batista's going to, I
imposing
think there's
something
some incorrect, the assumptions are not correct.
Correct. You can't change the AB8, which is what the Williamson Act calculations are for all the jurisdictions in the Williamson Act. You can't pull a piece of the AB8 and give it to county fire. That's why we're doing a fee or a parcel tax or whatever we end up with. It would have to be in addition to, so just to make it really easy math, if somebody who has Williamson Act today is paying $500 of taxes, and your board, the way I understand the conversation's going, increases the fee for fire by another 100, their property tax would now be 600, not we would take Williamson down to 400 for the jurisdictions and county fire gets 100. You can't mess around with AB8.
Okay.
You're
So
adding
then,
more.
so then would that require an action from the voters?
And I'd go back to that, really be best answered after research. And this goes back to the simplicity part. We're operating off past proposed taxes of the county before, so we have some of the legwork done on drafting what's required for this. And if the board wants to carve out exemptions, that would be more simple. Something like this, it's a substantial deviation. It would take research to ensure it doesn't interfere with, the components of that program. That would take time, and it's pretty short right now. So the preferred action is, if you're going to make an exemption, to exempt it, and be satisfied with the remainder. If we can take action on Williamson Act later, we could take up that issue, but it would be separate.
Yeah, and I guess we're not communicating very well, because that's what I'm talking about, is that we just exclude it from this parcel tax, because we're not talking about a large number of parcels, so the overall impact on the funds generated would be pretty minimal, right?
Yeah, just again,
So we could
quick
just
and dirty
address
math.
that
We're
at a
looking at
later-
like 66,000-ish
Yeah.
that we would not collect, that we
$66,000 total.
annually.
Yeah, okay. So, out of over 3 million, that's,
And of course, that's if your board opted with option 1 here.
okay. Of course, we want to be fair, but, that's a component of it that we can address in another way.
And I'm addressing to bring in revenue through that program, Williamson Act. That's what would require research, whether or not
Okay.
you don't need a vote to do that revenue, not just fees or reducing exposure there.
Okay.
And I guess just on that topic, when you do the research about revenue specific towards fire and only fire, just
I'm sorry, that's a little bit.
sorry about that. And just when you do the research specific to, if we can vote on it and it's for revenue, it would specifically be for fire revenue only, not like a general, not like TOT or something else. Correct?
That's what we could look at. If there's time to do that before the next meeting, we would certainly attempt to.
Meaning I wouldn't want that money to be able to, it would specifically be for fire only. So, I do have a quick question that came to mind, because I know we're talking about fire apparatus, employees and whatnot. Could we also, if this did pass, could we also use this money for fire breaks, fire safe communities, whatnot? Since it's specific towards fire, could it be all of the above with fire?
So in what County Fire put together as far as what they need just to fund those priorities that I mentioned,
Right.
fire breaks weren't necessarily as a part of those priorities, although
And I know that,
Yeah,
like I said,
so-
it just came to mind sitting up here. I'm just curious if
So certainly we could, if you wanted county fire to go build fire breaks, for sure, it could be used that way. It just, it isn't necessarily in the scope or recommendation of how
Right.
we would use that money.
because it will get brought up, people will be
Can I
asked.
Deb and I were just doing a side conversation, so she was letting me know that this actually goes into a separate fund that we would administer, but your board has the authority to decide how you would want those. So it's how we word in the ballot language that would narrow the use of that funding. So that's where we would need that direction. If we say it's for fire services countywide, that's a very broad, meaning anything that we would have specific to fire, but it would limit it to just personnel or to just capital projects or equipment.
All right.
So really, it really is up to your board how you want that worded, that either narrows or broadens the use of that funding.
So that's it for
All right.
doing.
Do
I
we
I have comments, but if we need to do public,
I
questions,
would
we
like
should
to
do
go to public comment. Is there any public comment? No public comment. All right. Guessing when we have this agendized next time, we will have public comment. I'll start with you, Mr. Kirk.
Sure. I thank you for putting this together, and thanks for Murphy. I've been emailing him back and forth, and for me, I'm glad we're specifically talking about dedicated revenues to fire. I don't think the TOT is appropriate. I think from campaigning and from hearing folks in our district, they want fire funded, they want roads funded. That's the most important thing. So it's really crappy that we're at a point in time where we got COVID and everything going on, because I'm still very concerned about the capability of this actually going through. I think businesses are hurting. I think people's finances are hurting. And so I think anytime they're going to see something that says tax and money, I'm really concerned that it's not going to pass, and for good reason. But with that being said, it's giving our local community the opportunity to make a decision right now with the current status of our fire departments and our situation. Do we want to see long-term funding and long-term fixing to our local situation? But sitting here, I've spoken to people about, if you want to go back a couple slides to the options 1 or 2. My gut reaction, and it was confirmed by several people, is the residential commercial businesses, the 150 or the 160. I think businesses may be able to gut that, but I think the typical resident, which is going to be the ones voting on this the most, I think 150, I think it might be too much. And so based on my gut reaction, based on the people I spoke to, I would recommend that we don't ask for that much. I know we all were forced to by the state years ago, but our local residents are going to be voting on this, and I don't think they're going to front that money right now in light of everything that's going on. So my recommendation would be to reduce that. I don't know if it means $50. I don't know if it means 75. What I was getting from folks was more around the 50 to 70 mark is what I think people could handle. And again, maybe for some commercial, maybe we have an option 3 where it's unimproved parcels is 50, homes is 75, and commercial business is 100 or 120. I think there should be a third. I think that's what I would like to see. If we lose it by a small margin, I think we're going to lose it because that number's too high. If we get it to pass, if people vote on it, I think it's going to be by a small margin, and I think it's based on the residents being able to front something that they can look at and stomach. So I understand that, if across the board we did $65, we'd be at 1.17 million. If across the board we did $90, we'd be at 2.4. I'm also taking into consideration the fact that we've put 1.6 million last year or 2 years ago, and then 1.4 million out of the general fund into fire. If we have a dedicated revenue stream towards our fire, even if it's only 1.7 or 2.4 million, we're still going to see that money back in the general fund that we've been fronting up to this point. So I know we don't want to be greedy. I know we all want to see that number at 3.4 million or 4 million or 5 million. I mean, there's a lot of things I like to accomplish, but I'm trying to be realistic here. I think those options are too high. I think there needs to be like a 50, a 75, and maybe 100. And then we need to see that we're going to see some money come back to the general fund that we've been offsetting for fire. And I would rather see us start to solve the problem than to completely miss it with fees maybe too high and be right back where we are. So my assessment could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. I'm looking for the rest of the board to their thoughts on it.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I wanted to start out by thanking the board and staff for even talking about this and working on it, because obviously when we talk about taxes, it's not a popular thing, but we're here to do a job, and sometimes it's a hard job, and sometimes it involves having difficult conversations about unpopular topics. And I felt very strongly when we were talking about our budget. We had some very sobering reports from our auditor controller and from our CAO about the future success of our county as an organization. And so if we don't, part of that is looking at where we can cut, what services can our citizens do without, and the other part of that, I feel, is looking at where can we increase revenues in a way that will not cause an undue burden to our citizens. And I think some of the options that we've discussed here fill that. Now, I've harped on the TOT a lot, and I won't do it very much right here because I'm able to count to 3. But I will say that I feel strongly that at some point we need to look at the TOT as a viable option, because I feel strongly that I don't want to see our local property taxpayers subsidizing services that are used by folks that don't live here permanently. And my concern is that is what is happening with a 10% TOT. The last thing I'll say about that is I have some of the final results from the last election when that was put on the ballot as Measure Q, and it only failed by it did fail, but it failed by about 3.5 percentage points. So it was not an overwhelming rout as some might believe. It was pretty close, and it was paired with a tax that was much less popular, I'll say. So that's all I'll say about TOT. I think that staff has come up with some really great plans for this fire parcel tax. In my district, we had the quarter fire a couple of weeks ago, and most people outside of my district probably don't know about it because we had fire services on the site. It was put out relatively quickly and with no damage to residences up there. But the potential for that fire to have become another rim fire was there. It was an extremely dangerous fire in an extremely dangerous location. And if we had not had the resources there quickly, if we had been unlucky as far as the wind and the weather had gone, that fire could have easily become much larger and damaged homes and potentially cost lives. So the danger is still there. As I don't need to tell anybody in this room that that's the case. So we have to do something about it, and we have to do something now. And I feel strongly that what we can do is securing funding for the future success of our fire department and fire services in Tuolumne County. If you look at both of these options that are here, if you could go back a slide or two to what are some of the things that would pay for? Actually, I think go forward. So right there. Yeah, just one slide back. There you go. So this is at the high end, but look at what you're getting. So $130, and you're getting stabilized budget. All of your vehicles are replaced within 10 years. You're getting fire stations. capital replacement improvements. And also, it's not on there, but as Supervisor Kirk mentioned, we could look at the possibility of some vegetation clearance, fire fuels reduction, that type of thing. It opens up the room there for that. And that is a bargain. I would gladly, for all of those things, $130 a year, I'm just speaking for myself, I would gladly pay that. You're getting so much for that amount, and it's something that we don't have right now. The added benefit to all of this is not only are you securing funding for our fire department, but you are taking that a significant portion of that pressure off of the general fund, so that there isn't this question about whether or not we can afford to buy a fire engine this year or next year. If we have a bad year, it doesn't matter because that funding is secured. So, those are just, I feel strongly about this, as you can tell, but those are some of the reasons why I think, if you go to the next slide there, I'm actually fine with either option. And, Supervisor Brennan has brought up some issues with Williamson Act, and obviously we don't want residents paying multiple times for the same service. That's not fair. But I'm confident that we can find a way to resolve that to where it is fair, where everybody's putting in their fair share and it's not diminishing the overall ability to generate those revenues. I'd say I'd support, I would support either option 1 or option 2. My preference is option 1. I think it's simpler and it would be easier for residents to look at and analyze and budget for, and it's simpler. That's my only preference, but I'm willing to defer on that if the board has a tendency toward other options. And those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay. I always have to say this because I really don't like taxes, but I supported the last 2 measures, and I really believe 2 things. One, we used to have a higher transient occupancy tax by 2% than our 2 neighboring foothill counties, and it didn't hurt us at all. Okay, we still got the visitorship. We are now 2% below them, and I'm not sure it makes a rat's difference to anybody traveling here. I don't think we're getting anybody that would otherwise go to Calaveras or Mariposa County. I strongly endorse, and I can't say this enough, I did the last time too, I strongly endorse a 2% TOT increase. That puts us at parity. It doesn't put us back 2% higher than everybody where we were before. It just puts us at parity. And I think that the people that come here and visit us, we love having you, except in COVID. I'm sorry, I got to say that. But other than that, we love having you. But you do eat up services, and we need to get reimbursed for that somehow. I don't think our residents should bear that cost. And so I'm in favor of a 2% TOT ballot measure. I'm also in favor of the fire tax. This is something that are key elements of public safety. We have to protect those. And if we want things like, which we all do, we want things like libraries and recreation and all that, we've got to take the pressure off the general fund where we can. And in fire safety, this is one place that we can do that and do it effectively. Otherwise, there's an election coming up. I may not be here, or I don't know. But I'm here to tell you, whoever sits in this seat is going to have a really tough time this time next year dealing with a budget if we don't get some additional revenues. And since I got on this board 7.5 years ago, we've been cutting, and there's not very much muscle to cut through. We're down to the bone. So I'm also a supporter of option one. I like it because it's simple. $150 is less than $3 a week, okay, if I did my math right. I know, it's still $150, but to have better fire safety, to have equipment that is not falling apart, I think it's worth it. I do think that we need to have an exemption for Williamson Act, but I do think that Williamson Act, we need to find a way for those Williamson Act properties to pay their fair share. And I would like to, along with supporting those two measures, I would like to have this board give staff direction to figure out how we can do that and do it fairly. So those are my comments.
Okay, so I did my math a little bit differently.
Okay.
Than you did, about so many dollars a day. I looked at giving up my latte for a month, and I could save $120. I mean, it's pretty easy. Last night was one of the few times I went out to dinner since we've been under COVID, and dinner. I had my once every 6 months liver and onions, and Lita had her fried chicken and iced tea and Diet Coke, and my bill was $41, and I left a tip, and I was out $50 for a dinner. That $75 used to be a lot of money. $150 used to be a lot of money. It's not a lot of money anymore because everything costs more. So I'm quite willing to give up my latte and a dinner once a month or twice a month, and I think a lot of people would be, in order to have better fire protection, better equipment. We've just, like Carl said, we've just been on the cut mode, and for one of the few times I'm going to agree with him on the TOT tax because it doesn't have an effect on the public. I don't think, as a county, we can't go out and sell it like it needs to be sold. It's nothing that's going to come out of the pocket it'll come out of very few people's pockets that live here. They might rent a motel room or go campsite, but it's going to be minuscule for the benefit. So I'm in favor of putting option one, and I'm okay with option two if there's a lot of heartburn, and put the TOT back on it at 2% and see where it goes. We don't have anything to lose by doing it.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Hold on. Can I?
So just a minute, because I would like the opportunity to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's not in the cards, though.
Because I too would support.
I'm sorry. I would support option one. I kind of like Supervisor Gray's analogies, and I think that families can find ways to do that, provided that we find a way to make it equitable. I think that is really important, and I don't think it is right to ask 30 or 40 families in this county to pay several times. And so in order to have that support, we need to find a way to make it equitable. So I am looking for a motion.
Yep.
I just have a question for staff for some clarity. Because it sounds like we're talking about putting TOT back on the ballot. The money that comes, if it passed, the money that came in from TOT, would that be directed specifically towards fire or go to the general fund?
So general fund,
General
TOT
fund.
would be set up as a general tax.
Right.
Going to general services, however.
So again,
you choose to
TOT
allocate.
would not be specifically allocated towards fire. It could go to anything.
Whatever your board decides to spend.
Exactly. And so that's the problem I have with this whole TOT conversation is we were here last year And TOT could fund salary increases, it could fund the juvenile hall, it could fund behavioral health, it could fund anything.
And libraries.
And libraries, but we're talking,
recreation.
so for me, the question is, where could the money from TOT go? It's not specifically going to go to fire. We say it is, but in government, we have good ideas, but it doesn't always pan out what we like. So that's why I think I support so we'll vote on it, the specific fire funding. Again, I think the residential fee is too much, and that's where the core of the vote's going to come from. So I would recommend an option three numbers. I'm all about keeping it simple, stupid. But that's where I stand. So.
Okay.
So, I've got a question first, a procedural question for County Council, and it's just in these challenging times of COVID and setting precedents, because I did ask for public comment, and we have 3 folks now that would like to comment, and I think it's important to hear their comments. But I also know that we have a process, and with each item, I would not want to have to open it back up to public comment when they come in after the call. Can you please advise?
Well, I mean, I think your board has some discretion here, but I would say we did get a complaint earlier that someone didn't feel like there was enough time, and so I think really the safest method is to go ahead and open it back up again, because we are in kind of unusual
Okay,
time.
and because we did not have comments, and so and I would agree and appreciate that. So at this time, I'd like to hear the public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
The specific fire. Again, I think the residential fee is too much. That's where the core of the
We're having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry for the delay. This is Pete Campa, General Manager, Groveland Community Services District and Groveland Fire Department. Sorry for the technological difficulties. But as you know, in Groveland, we rely heavily on the Tacoma County Fire Department to assist us in providing solid fire and emergency response services on the Highway 120 corridor, all the way from Jamestown to Yosemite Park boundaries. So we very much rely on you folks. Considering this, the Groveland Safety Board is in favor of a funding measure that provides adequate financial resources to cover the full cost of staffing, facility improvements, and equipment replacement for both Tacoma County Fire and GCSD Fire. As we have throughout the process, the district will continue to work closely with the county to align measure goals, objectives, deliverables, and amounts, as well as public outreach. As you know, since the district's fire suppression assessment expired in 2012 and a subsequent tax measure was rejected by the Groveland voters, GCSD Fire is operating in an extreme deficit condition and must raise an additional $600,000 annually to fund the Schedule A contract and annual contracts with CAL FIRE in the Groveland stations, and also to replace engines and maintain the fire station. We do have expressed concern with the timing of the ballot measure, as it is a very short timeline and a very large order to get this measure on the ballot, and also to get voter buy-in and voter approval. This is extremely critical that this funding comes through on both ends, but we commit to work with the county as far as the various options. Again, my board has not actually considered the options, but we will commit to have this item on the agenda for our upcoming meeting of July 14th for consideration, and we look forward to your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Brewer and Board of Supervisors, for allowing a comment outside of the expected order. I do appreciate it. My name is Jenny Souza. I'm just a member of the community, and I work and I live here. And I want to say, first of all, I support 100% the funding for the fire tax for option 1. Regarding $75 not being very much more, I have to say that I have a good job. I have an opportunity to make overtime. My fire insurance tripled last year, and that put a financial burden on me. We don't take big vacations. We seldom take away vacations, well, outside of COVID, of course, where we're not taking anything. And I just want to remind people that we are right now, as a community, a lot of us homeowners are under that increased fire tax or fire insurance from last year. We're facing furloughs from COVID-19. We have increased food costs, increased all sorts of costs right now. $75 is a lot for people to come up with, even people who budget and are careful. To spend that $75 is a sacrifice, and it's one that, again, I support option 1. We're going to find that money somewhere as a homeowner and as a family. But for my fellow community people, I don't know. I also support raising the TOT. Let's raise it. I completely agree with Supervisor Rutherford's comments about it, so I won't say anything else. That's all I have to say, other than I truly appreciate all the time and consideration and hard work that everyone involved in this issue has put in, and all of your daily hard work, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Kathleen Haff, Supervisor-elect for District 4. And my comment is I wanted to say that no one saw the COVID coming before the primary of March 3rd. And many people that I've talked to since then have expressed regret at not having voted for the TOT tax, and they would do so now. So I wanted to make sure that the board and anybody listening right now hears that, and that there is consideration to put this measure back on the ballot. I also wanted to say that as an incoming supervisor, I do, and as an OES coordinator in the past, I do support the fire parcel tax as well, leaving it up to the board how you want to do that. But we do need to keep in mind how very important it is at this time with so many people either out of work or limited work that we make it doable. And I think that's basically it. Just wanted to get those comments in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There's one more.
Hello, this is Bruce Erickson calling in one more time. Relative to the fire tax, there's another way to look at that $150 cost, and that is our fire insurance has gone up enormously and everywhere. And if we can go ahead and do some things to ameliorate the fact that we've got horrible exposure to fire, then we should be able to get our fire insurance costs down. And I think somebody there needs to take some leadership in terms of going after the state to go after the insurance companies so that they won't keep price gouging us. So there needs to be two things that happen. One is I think we need to raise some taxes in terms of paying for fire. And secondly, going after somebody needs to go after the insurance companies because they're involved with each other in terms of, in my view, price fixing, and we need to have the Board of Supervisors come together and help us go against these monstrous corporations that are gouging us. And also, I think that the Twin Heart Fire District has done a pretty good job in terms of keeping things together, and we might want to look more at what they've done and earn the right to get that fire tax passed, because I think a lot of people just don't trust the board to spend the money properly. And as Anaya Kirk pointed out, sometimes, for example, a tot tax isn't going to be spent for what people think it's going to be spent on, but we still need to raise that tot tax. And Anaya's got plenty of money. He's making a lot of money, but a lot of people don't make a lot of money, and people need to understand, and it needs to get sold to them, that the people coming up from the Bay Area or wherever are coming up here because they do have disposable income, and we are paying for their roads, and we are paying for their sewer, et cetera, et cetera. And so we need to get the tot tax in line with everything else. No one ever goes and rents a hotel room and says, oh, I'm not going to go ahead and take that hotel room because the tax is 2% too high. So we need to sell it to them, but you guys have got to have the credibility to do that. And so far, you've still been making blunders, I think, in terms of cutting wages and giving people an opportunity to take less pay and still stay in a county that's really cheap to live in. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? All right. Yes.
I would like to move that we direct staff to bring back option 1, modified to take out the Williamson Act parcels, and to pursue options to other options within the Williamson Act contract or others, I'll leave that open, to ensure that the owners of Williamson Act properties pay their fair share, and that we also direct staff to prepare a ballot measure to raise our TOT tax by 2%.
I will second.
Could I just clarify something? I'm sorry, but with the TOT, we had talked about before including campgrounds and RV parks.
Yes.
Is that to include that, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make.
I'm hearing yes, so my motion includes them.
So it'll be the exact same, right, as last. We just want to make we're clear.
As a
Is that-
general tax.
We'll give them another shot.
All right. I had a motion from Supervisor Rotifer, I think a second from Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed, but I just want to clarify. I support wholeheartedly dedicated fire funding. I don't support TOT in blurring the line. I'm here to support fire, so I'm a no for the TOT portion.
They're fixing they're addressing two separate issues. We're not blurring the lines. One is directly to fix our fire problem. We still have problems in our general fund.
Motion carried 4-1. All right, we are going to recess until our 1:30 appointments. Thank you. We have a number of public hearings scheduled for 1:30 today, and so we want to ensure that the public has meaningful opportunity to participate, and I'm going to exercise my authority as board chair today to change our standard public hearing procedures and combine public participation from proponents, opponents, and those neither for nor against the items being considered. So when we open the public hearing, please, if you want to make a comment, call in. Comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes each. So with that, Cece, will you please read our first 1:30 appointment?
Public hearing to consider Blind Bull LP ordinance for zone change RZ 19013 to rezone a 4.1 plus acre parcel and a 19.9 plus portion of a 39.6 acre parcel from AE 37 to AE 37 AP under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance. Application for Williamson Act Contract WA 19006 to rescind an existing Williamson Act Contract 04 WA 89 and enter into a new contract on a 180.88 plus acre site pursuant to Tuolumne County Resolution 10604, approval of a new agricultural management plan.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing. And I'd ask for the staff report.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. The project before you today is a zone change, an application for a Williamson Act contract, and a request to approve a new agricultural management plan for the Blind Bull LLC LP property owner. The project site's located at 22200, 22390, 22530, 22448 Lions Bald Mountain Road. The project site has a general plan designation of agriculture. The reason this project is before you today is that the applicant is requesting a lot line adjustment to bring some additional property into the Williamson Act. And when we do a lot line adjustment for Williamson Act projects, we have to check to ensure that they have the correct agricultural preserve zoning, as well as rescind an existing contract and bring it into a new contract. So here are the project maps. The areas that are zoned in the hash mark on the right-hand side are the areas proposed that are going into the Williamson Act, as well as that will be having the AP general plan, the AP zoning designation. We did notify adjoining property owners of this project in 2019 and did not receive any responses. The Agricultural Advisory Committee did review this project and recommended approval. The Planning Commission also reviewed the project and recommended approval, and the staff has determined that the project meets all the applicable findings. And so the decision process for you today is to either approve the project with modifications, deny the project, or send the project back to staff. And just as a reminder, the project includes a zone change from AE 37 to AE 37 AP, which is the Agricultural Preserve Combining District. It includes an application for a Williamson Act contract, as well as the approval of a new agricultural management plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any board questions? All right, is there any public comment?
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Ragland. I'm the engineer and surveyor for Blind Bull and Dambacker, who are doing a lot line adjustment. One parcel is being eliminated, portions being added to adjacent parcels, and more land is going into agricultural preserve as is required, because you can't have a portion of a parcel in ag preserve. I'll try to be available for questions if there are any. I don't think this is a very controversial project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no questions, is there any other public comment? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and look to the board. There is no other comments. This one actually is in my district, and so I'm going to make the motion to approve zone change RZ 19-013 based on A through D, and approve the Williamson Act Land Conservation Contract 04WA-89, and executing a new Williamson Act Contract WA 19-006 under Resolution 106-04 based on findings A through K. And additionally, move approval of the agricultural management plan based on findings A3A through E. I believe I got them all.
Second.
Yes.
May I just add one thing? Because I did admit to the fact that I do make mistakes, I would just like to clarify that on item finding 2K has the incorrect CEQA number. It should be 15017, I believe, and it's reflected appropriately in our environmental evaluation. I'm sorry, 15317. So just want to update. We'll update that. Thank you.
With that correction.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Right. Will the clerk please read our second 1:30 appointment?
Public hearing to consider James, resolution for general plan amendment GPA 19004 to change the general plan land use designation of a 12.47 plus acre portion of 37 plus acre portion from agriculture to homestead residential. Resolution for agricultural preserve alterations AP 20001 to remove a 12.47 plus acre portion from agricultural preserve 74, which currently consists of 367.7 plus acres. Ordinance to zone change RZ 19005 to rezone a 12.47 plus acre portion of a 37 plus acre portion from AE 37 AIR to RE3 AIR and open space under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code as follows: 10.93 acres to RE3 AIR and 1.54 acres to OAIR.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing, and I will remind the public that all public comments will be made together, and if you are interested in commenting, please dial in. Staff report.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department. The project before you today includes a general plan amendment to rezone, to change approximately 12.47 acres from Ag to HR, to also remove that same portion from Ag Preserve 74, as well as to rezone that portion of a property to RE3 Air, which is the Airport Overlay Zoning District, and O Air, which is open space with the Airport Overlay Zoning District. The project site's located at 10130 State Highway 49 with a current general plan land use designation of Ag. The project was submitted to our department because the owners are interested in pursuing a re-subdivision to adjust property lines within the project site. And so there are two current legal parcels, and the proposed re-subdivision which the county surveyor will act on, would also result in two parcels. But given the proposed sizes of those parcels, action is needed by your board for a general plan amendment and a zone change, and also to remove a portion of the property from the Ag Preserve. The hashed area here is the 12 acres or so that's going from agricultural to HR, which is homestead residential. The remainder of the project site will stay agricultural. Here's a map of the Ag Preserve alteration request, and again, the hashed area is that approximately 12 acres that would come out of the Ag Preserve. The overall Ag Preserve 74 would still be large enough to maintain all of the required findings and approvals to stay in agriculture. And lastly, that same area would be the bottom portion here in the hashed area. The 12 acres would go from AE37 to RE3 with the air overlay, as well as a portion going to O air with the overlay there. We did notify 52 adjoining property owners. No responses were received from our department. At the Planning Commission, there were some questions that were raised by the public with respect to would there be new access to the portions that are staying in agricultural from the adjacent roads, and there's no new access that's being proposed to the property on any of the surrounding roadways. So all the existing egress and ingress that is existing would stay as is with the proposed project. Oops. Oh.
Are there any board questions?
No, it always amazes me how much you can raise on that limestone out there. Under that ag designation, it's pretty challenging.
Is there any public comment? No public comment? All right, I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to close the public hearing.
And Madam Chair, this is in my district. So I make a motion that we approve the general plan amendment GPA 19-004 based on findings A through D, and that we approve the agricultural preserve alteration AP 20-001 based on findings A through D, and that we approve the zone change RZ 19-005 based on findings A through D.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Supervisor Rotifer, a second from Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Will the clerk please read our third 1:30 appointment?
Public hearing to consider Kale Resolution for Agricultural Preservation Alteration, AP 14001, remove a 90.3 plus acre parcel from Agricultural Preserve number 138, which currently consists of 367.7 plus acres. Resolution for general plan amendment, GPA 140061, to amend the general plan land use designation of a 90.3 plus acre parcel from agriculture to large lot residential. Ordinance for rezone change RZ 140161 to rezone the project site from AE 37 under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code as follows: 68.8 plus acre parcel to A10 to open space. Vesting tentative subdivision map T18046 to divide the existing 90.3 plus acre parcel into 8 parcels. Indemnification agreement by and between the County of Tuolumne and Frederick and Kathleen Kale.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. I'd like to remind the public, if they're interested in making comments, to please call in. Ask for staff report.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. Before I begin on this project, I would just like to let the board and the public know that prior to my employment here at Tuolumne County, I did work as a biological consultant and did work on this project over 5 years ago, doing biological evaluations for the applicant at that time. I have no further financial relationship with the applicant or the consulting firm that I worked at, but just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of that. So the project description includes removing approximately 90 acres from Agricultural Preserve 138, amend the general plan land use designation from agricultural to large lot residential, to change the zoning on the site from AE 37 to A10, which is general agricultural, 10-acre minimum, and O, which is open space, and to divide the property, the 90-acre parcel, into 8 parcels. The site is located at 11247 Campo Seco Road, with a current general plan land use designation of agricultural. This project was originally submitted in 2014, proposing a much more dense project. It included a zoning designation for 3-acre lots, and the concern at the time was that the 3-acre lot zoning would allow the project to come back through and further divide in the future. There was also concern raised on that the project was going to be on wells, and the applicant recently revised the project to larger lots, changed the zoning from the 3-acre minimum to a 10-acre minimum, and is proposing to be connected to public water. So there have been some substantial project revisions over the course of this application. As you can see here, the project is surrounded by a variety of general plan land use designations, including 5 acres, 2 acres, and even not too far away, low-density residential. As I'd mentioned, that we did receive considerable feedback on this project, both in 2015, 17, and then again in 2019. There at one point was a petition circulating in opposition to the project when the 3-acre zoning was proposed. Other concerns we received were respect to open space mitigation. In the revision, they revised those projects to be larger in size, and there will be some pre-construction surveys required for nesting birds. There was another concern that the project removed oak trees prior to submitting a development application to the county, which would trigger our premature removal of oak woodland ordinance. But there was an investigation done by the staff member at that time, and it was determined that there was no violation of that premature oak woodland removal policy, and therefore the director at that time did not take any enforcement action. There was concerns that the project wasn't consistent with ordinance code or with the general plan, and as your staff report outlines, the staff has found that the project as proposed now does meet those policies, guidelines, and ordinance code requirements. Again, there was significant concern over impacts to groundwater, and the applicant revised their application to include connecting to public water. There is a TUD water line right there in Campo Seco Road. There was also concern with respect to the septic system and just general impacts on creeks, and any future septic systems will be required to meet our ordinance code and our local agency management plan, which does include setbacks from drainages as well as the implementation of best management practices. Another concern that we received was regarding traffic, and overall 8 lots does not trigger a traffic study here in Tuolumne County, and so a traffic study was not conducted. I was just caught by some members of the public who did express additional concern that they are experiencing on Campo Seco Road a significantly higher level of vehicle traffic. They attribute it to the lights in Jamestown, that people are avoiding those lights, and that they say Campo Seco has become a thoroughfare. They also expressed concerns about traffic coming onto Martin Lane, which is a private road that adjoins the project site, and only one of the proposed parcels could potentially access Martin Lane. And I did express to the individuals in the hallway just now that we would have Public Works, and I would also notify the Sheriff's Department about their concerns regarding speed and traffic on Campo Seco Road.
Yeah, that is a legitimate problem and a legitimate concern, and we need to deal with that with Caltrans and those lights, because it's causing not just problems there, but problems in Main Street in Jamestown and a bunch of other problems on Fifth Avenue. People are finding, they're seeking the lowest point, just like water does, and so.
So I will get with Director of Public Works and just continue to have conversation with the sheriff. I'll make sure to loop you in, Supervisor Rodefer.
Yeah, they're supposed to be setting up a meeting with Caltrans.
Okay. Very good. Another concern of the public was just noise that would be generated by the project. Residential noise is not, of 8 lots, isn't something that we would typically require a noise study on. And there are implementation programs in our general plan that would govern the volume of noise coming from a stationary source or a project site like this. So if there is ever noise concerns in the future, they can come through code enforcement, and we can look into that. And with respect to open space, there is, of the 93 acres or so, 21 acres are proposed to be zoned open space, which will protect a variety of habitats, including riparian habitat, oak woodland, and some cultural resources on the project site. Other concerns that were raised were respect, again, to driveways and traffic, like we talked about. Any driveways that come onto Campo Seco Road will be required to get an encroachment permit where we review site distance. There was also concern about cumulative impacts from this project and other projects in the county, and we don't have any adjacent projects or nearby projects that we would use right now to identify cumulative impacts. We would refer back to our general plan for just sort of the overall impact of growth in our county. Lastly, in terms of comments, there, especially when there was a concern about the proposed 3-acre minimum zoning districts, there was a large public outcry and desire for an environmental impact report. The project, as it's been revised and is currently proposed, seems it was appropriate to prepare an initial study, which is a slightly these days smaller, but not much smaller these days, environmental document. As a result of that, the county would prepare a mitigated negative declaration, which would compel the property owners to implement mitigation measures to reduce all impacts identified in that initial study to a less than significant level. Those have been incorporated as conditions of approval for the subdivision, and so as they move through the process to obtain a grading permit, to obtain a final map, to obtain building permits, there'll be different mitigation measures that will be applicable to the project at those times. The project was reviewed, I think that should say agricultural advisory committee, and they did recommend approval of the project. The Planning Commission reviewed and recommended approval of the project. During the Planning Commission meeting, I don't believe we had anyone speak up in opposition to the project. There were some voices of support that we did receive during that meeting, and staff has determined that the project meets all the applicable findings for the requested actions. The Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors may approve the project with modifications, deny the project, or send the project back to staff. And I just want to make sure I clarify, and I should have done this on the previous projects, that any general plan amendments that you make a motion on today are contingent on approval of a master resolution, and that master resolution, I'll present it at the end of our final general plan amendment. The California law only allows us to modify a county's general plan 4 times a year. And so that's why we do these all on one day, and you make the motion contingent on the master resolution, and at the end of those general plan amendments is when I'll present that to you. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions? Is there any public comment?
Okay, good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Bob Osborne. I'm the project consultant. First of all, I'd like to thank staff for the patience and perseverance to get us through to this point successfully. It's been a long haul. Also, I'm in favor of approval of the project for the Kales. And if the board has any questions for me, I'm ready.
Right. I don't see any questions. Thank you for calling. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing.
And this is in my district. Just a second. I got to get back into my... Went to sleep on me. Madam Chair, I would like to move on to approve the mitigated negative declaration for this project based upon findings A through F, and approve the agricultural preserve alteration AP 14-001 parent 1 close parent based upon the findings A through C. Approve the general plan amendment GPA 14-006 parent 1 then parent based on the findings A through C, and approve the zone change RZ 14-016 parent 1 then parent based on findings A through C, and approve the vesting tentative subdivision map T18-046 based on findings A through C, and finally to approve the indemnification agreement between the county, by and between the county of Tuolumne and Frederick and Kathleen Call.
I have a motion
I'll second.
and a second by Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Will the clerk please read our fourth 1:30 appointment?
Public hearing to consider ROCA, Resolution for General Plan Amendment, GPA 19009, to change the general plan land use designation of a 6.71 plus acre parcel from large lot residential to estate residential, and a 1.23 plus acre parcel from low density residential to ER. Ordinance for zone change RZ 19012 to rezone a 5.88 plus acre parcel from RE10 to RE2 RE2 under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing and remind the public, if they're interested in commenting on this project, to please call in. Staff report.
Hello, my name is Terralyn Turner, and I'm the project land use technician for General Plan Amendment GPA 19-009 and rezone RZ 19-012. The applicants are Frank and Anna Roca. The project is a resolution for a General Plan Amendment GPA 19-009 to change the General Plan land use designation on Parcel A from large lot residential to estate residential, and Parcel B from low-density residential to estate residential. The project includes an ordinance for a zone change, RZ 19-012, to rezone a portion of Parcel A from RE10 and 01 to RE2 and 01, and a portion of Parcel B from RE1 to RE2. The zone change is being requested to facilitate a lot line adjustment between the two parcels. The project is located at 16166 Placer Street in the community of Jamestown. Assessor's parcel numbers 059-243-005 and 059-200-012. Here is a map of the project site with the surrounding parcels. The proposed general plan and zoning would be compatible with the parcels in the vicinity. The exhibit map shows the property lines proposed to be adjusted with a lot line adjustment at a later date. The ordinance and resolution maps depict the areas to be rezoned to RE2 and general plan amendment to estate residential. Adjoining property owners were notified by mail. Comments were received regarding the wetland area on the site, which is within existing open space and will have no impact. Access was another concern, which would be addressed by the dedication of an easement or other means of legal access and would be a condition of the tentative map. Overdevelopment was another concern. The proposed zoning does not provide an increase in density. Diminished well capacity in the area of the project site was another concern. Environmental Health Division was consulted and advised the area contains fractured rock, which is unlikely to allow communication between wells. The staff's response to each point of the required findings of the general plan amendment and rezone application can be found in the agenda report. Planning Commission recommended approval on GPA 19009 and RZ 19-012 on May 6th of 2020. General Plan Amendment GPA 19-009 and rezone RZ 19-012. The Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors may either approve the project with modifications, deny the project, or send the project back to staff for further review. Are there any questions?
Any board questions? Is there any public comment?
All right. Hello. My name is Duncan McFarland. I live immediately next to this project. I'm looking out my window right now at it. From my perspective, I have a few concerns about it. Primarily, this field has always been an agricultural field. Both of these lots, they've been used for raising livestock and cattle. Even after the Rokas bought it, they have had horses and sheep out there, and it's something that the community largely promotes. There's plenty of other agriculture included in this area. I think that's probably the best use of this land. It's a very low impact, it's minimal impact, and it's welcome. These changes have been just like a slow, ongoing plod over the last couple of decades. Obviously, when the Rokas bought it, they built a house and they kept their agriculture out there, but it's always been agriculture first. And I believe that these lot line adjustments and zone changes are going to wind up causing some major changes and some pretty unwelcome ones in the community. We have just very minimal access to fields along the primary properties on Placer that are off street front. And this is kind of our agricultural lifestyle that we enjoy so much. What we have goats and sheep and everything in those small fields. This project is going to be allowing, of course, someone to put a house out there, do grading, encroachment on amphibian lands, long driveways, cutting through it, and really minimizing the agricultural intent that I believe the fields have always had. And this ultimately, I think, is going to result in some negative aspects to this community. Very well, and with respect to the wells, obviously, you can ask a lot of people in this area if they think that wells have effects on each other. We've all undergone the well contamination aspects to varying degrees. People have had different results. The transparency, finally, is one other thing I want to address. Because of the COVID epidemic, the closure of offices, access for susceptible populations that maybe would find it difficult to travel and to view plans and stuff, they've really had that's had a very negative effect for people to be able to even participate. And in addition, multiple members were not notified of this at all prior to the May 6th CDD meeting, and continue to. I'm not sure if they've even had a chance for this one, if they got the notices for this either. It was confirmed on the phone that I was not one of the people that got a notice for that meeting, and then other people also couldn't even connect because of internet issues. I myself am just on audio only because I can't view the video right now over my connection. It seems like this is something that maybe needs to be reviewed. I feel like this project is not ready for prime time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Rich James. I'm the project surveyor on this project. Obviously, I'm in favor of it and would hope to address any questions or concerns by the board. Sounds like Mr. McFarland had some concerns regarding development and future development in here. And I'd like to point out that we aren't creating any new additional parcels at this point. We are just reconfiguring existing parcels. If we had compliant zonings, we wouldn't even be going through this portion of the project. The zone change in general plan is merely to facilitate the adjustment of two parcels. According to the documentation, it's not going to result in any additional building intensity that would be allowed as it stands right now. If there's any questions, I'd love to answer them. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Frank Rocha. I just wanted to clarify on proposal. We're just looking for a lot line adjustment. We're not like I said. We're not wanting to change any open space or anything. Nothing's really going to change except for the lot line adjustment. horses are going to continue to be out there. They're my daughter's horses. She loves horses, and they graze the property really well. I mean, they're down to pretty much no grass right now. I got to feed them hay. And there's also TUD put out water out here. There's water available. If we were to put water out there, it would be TUD water. But I just wanted to clarify that there's really, besides the lot line adjustment, no changes to the ecosystem or anything else. I've had archaeologists and biologists out here before in 2005 when I bought the property, and everything was clear to go. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Seeing, oh, okay.
Hello, this is Richard Stamps. First of all, I'd like to address the concerns of the neighboring properties and their respective owners. The plans proposed are just for the general plan amendment and the rezoning, and this does not include any proposals for future development. Next, in maintenance of the property, as Frank Roach has said, and I'd like to reiterate, it shall remain the same as is currently through the use of our livestock and additional lawn mowing and weed eating as we do now. I'd also like to note that if your concern stems from the potential of future development, the property is within the ability to be added onto and developed further as is if we wanted to, which is obviously not the case right now. Furthermore, due to the size of the property, if an additional structure was added, it would be further away from the neighboring homes than any of the current surrounding homes. And lastly, the concerns about the ecological impact regarding the existence of the wetlands on the property, this was made known to Frank Rocha, obviously, as is said by the project manager. That property is far and away from the parcel in question, the second smaller parcel. If there's any more questions, the neighbors can come and ask us anytime. We'd be happy to have you over, and it wouldn't be a problem. So there's that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Bourbon. I just want to speak in favor of the plot line adjustment for the Rocha family.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, this is Anthony Garcia, and I know I might be the new guy on the block in the neighborhood, but I feel that with this COVID-19 thing going on, we're sort of streamlining a process that might need a little bit more time to be studied by the board, because it will be affecting other people down the line in the future. And I don't think that part has been quite considered, because I understand Mr. Rocha did do an environmental impact study in 2005, but that was like 15 years ago. So how is it going to affect us now? Thank you. That's my question. I would just like the board to maybe consider more review.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right.
So,
I am going to first close the public hearing.
okay.
And now, Supervisor, you have a comment?
District 5, it seems to be District 5's day for zone changes, lot line adjustments and everything. And I don't know which one of you wants to be the speaking head on this one, but there were three issues that were raised in one of the public comments. One was the public outreach. Are we convinced that we did the appropriate public outreach on this project?
Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department. We use the assessor's system for legal parcel owner addresses. It
Okay.
ties to our GIS system. However, thank you for the softball. Due to many IT priorities, that is one thing that we don't get updated as frequently as we would like. And so there is an occasion that some new legal owners or some addresses are left off the list. We do our best to notify adjacent property owners, and when we receive notice that someone didn't get notification, we certainly add them to the list.
Okay. And then the other one was the potential for houses or additional structures. If this goes through as the staff is recommending, what potential is there for additional structures on that property?
It would not create an increase in density. It's actually a less intensive use. Once the zone change and general plan amendment goes through, it would facilitate for a less intensive use on the parcels.
Okay, thank you. And the third one was wells, and I'm not going to ask you a question about that. But the gentleman that called in did allude to the fact that TUD has run a line out there now as well. Is that correct? Okay. Don't pick on me. I make mistakes too.
The TUD has run a line out into that community.
Okay.
And so, certainly as they go through a building permit process, should they wish to do that,
Okay.
there would either be wells required to go through our ordinance code, or they'd connect to public water.
Okay. And are there any?
Are there any other board questions?
Okay. With that, I'm going to move that we approve General Plan Amendment GPA 19-009 based on findings A through D, and the zone change RZ 19-009 based on findings A through D.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Supervisor Rutherford, a second from Supervisor Gray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Will the clerk please read our fifth 1:30 appointment?
Public hearing to consider Gateway Hub LLC, resolution for general plan amendment GPA 20-002 to change the general plan land use designation of a 4.9 plus acre parcel from public to general commercial.
All right. I am going to open the public hearing. I'd like to remind the public, if they are interested in commenting on this project, to please call in. Staff report.
Good afternoon. Carolyn Turner with Community Development Department. I'm the land use technician for General Plan Amendment GPA 20-002. The owner is Gateway Hub LLC, and the applicants are TK Consulting. The project is for a resolution to change the general plan land use designation from public to general commercial. This amendment would serve to update the general plan to be consistent with the general commercial zoning of the project site and the surrounding parcels. No development is proposed at this time. The project only consists of a general plan amendment application. The project is located on the southeast side of Highway 120, approximately 1,000 feet northeast of the intersection of Highway 120 and Wards Ferry Road in the community of Jamestown. Assessor's parcel number 066-140-022. The general plan land use designation of the project site is public. This map shows the project site with the surrounding parcels. The general commercial general plan designation is consistent with the surrounding parcels as indicated by the red color. Notices of the proposed project were sent via mail to adjoining property owners on May 11, 2020. The Community Development Department received one neutral response requesting notification of any future development on the site. The general plan amendment application meets the required findings as presented in the staff's response to each point in the agenda report. General Plan Amendment GPA 20-002, the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors may either approve the project with modifications, deny the project, or send the project back to staff for a review. Are there any questions?
Just a comment, I believe that's Big Oak Flat, not Jamestown.
Oh, did I say Jamestown? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I drive by it every day, that's why I know it's there.
You had me worried there for a minute.
That missed something. Are there any board questions? All right. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I'm going to close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair, I move approval of general plan amendment based on findings A through D.
Second.
Did I hear a second over here?
Yep.
Got a motion from Supervisor Gray, a second from Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. All right. Will the clerk please read our last 1:30 appointment?
Absolutely. Public hearing to consider a master resolution for general plan amendments Kale GPA 140061, James GPA 19004, Roca GPA 19009, and Gateway Hub GPA 20002.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. I would encourage the public that wants to make a comment to call in now. Shaylee.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley. Before I read this last item, I just want to take a minute to thank our staff. Natalie Rizzi, Taryn Vanderpan, Shady Gonzalez, and Terrell Turner are all in our Land Use Natural Resources Division. And the projects I presented today were actually not mine. They were prepared and all prepped and ready for me by a staff member who took a well-deserved vacation this week. So I just want to take a minute to thank our staff. Also thank Renee Hendry, who was a longtime planner in our division who worked on the Kale project for a very long time. So thank you to all of our staff members.
And please extend our gratitude also.
As I said before, California only allows us to amend our general plan 4 times a year, and so that's why we batch these general plan amendments before the board all in one afternoon. We're going to make it in under an hour, hopefully. We are requesting that you adopt the attached master resolution for general plan amendment GPA 14-006 parentheses 1, GPA 19-004, GPA 19-009, and GPA 20-002. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any board questions? Is there any public comment? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring this back. I'm looking for a motion.
Move on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
A motion from Supervisor Gray, a second from Supervisor Rotifer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please, again, tell staff thank you. All right. Would like to take us back, and will the clerk please read our closed session item number 12? And I believe that is... And number 13, thank you.
Okay, that's.
Yes.
Closed session conference with real property negotiators Tracy Riggs, County Administrator, and Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator. Authority Government Code 54956.8 for a 240 plus acre piece of property known as Kennedy Meadows containing APN 021-020-02 to discuss price and terms of payment negotiating party Matt Bloom. Closed session conference with legal counsel. Initiation of litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9D4 for cases.
Do we anticipate a report out? All right. We will, is there any public comment? There's no public comment. We are going to recess to close session. Yes.